Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We had took a week hiatus. Some stuff came up, but we're back finally. It feels great to be among friends again. I gotta say, after a rough couple weeks, we are back. The usual suspects: Manuel from Nerd Plays, Luis for Luisa's Game Room, and Rubica from her house, and myself, Ace. We're back trying to talk about whatever we come up with. This is the No Name Podcast, and before we go to the guys, I do want to say thank you to everyone that's made it possible for us or that's made us feel good enough that we have continued doing this. And this is our 10th episode, and we do have some stuff coming up that we're going to be bringing after this episode. Like I said, it's been a rough couple weeks, so we're able to set everything up. But we do have some sort of celebration coming up. But today we are back to what we do. We're gonna be talking about a few things. Space Jam, Loki that we had in the backlog before we weren't able to come back last week, and then we're gonna be talking about what would be the video game, like our perfect video game. If we were to create it, if we had like unlimited resources, what would we make? That's what we're going to be talking about today. And without further ado, first, let me welcome back the man, the myth, the legend, Manuel. How you doing, Manuel?
I'm doing well. How you doing, Ace?
I'm
Been a tough
doing.
week.
I'm doing okay. Like I said, it just feels good to be back amongst friends. It helps. I'm glad that we
Yeah,
didn't lose
definitely, definitely.
contact on during that time. It was absolutely it definitely helped me get through it. How was
Yep.
your week?
So I've been gaming a lot more than I would expect, and basically not a lot changes in my life. So you can ask me week by week, and I'm pretty much the same. So basically, my life is studies and studies, working, video games. But I've been having a good time. Looking forward to talking about today's topic and about the few games that I've been playing, because I know none of you guys have ever heard of any of the games. So that's
Yeah.
gonna be fun.
Yeah, I was looking at that and I was like, okay, we definitely have to have Manuel come in and tell us about it because I have no idea what that is. Luis, what about you, man? How have you been this week? I know you got back to going in person to work. How's that been?
It's been interesting to say the least. I'm getting back on track. Like managing my schedule. I miss my toddler. Like, man, I miss that little brat. I love him so much, and whenever I leave home, since you know, since I leave early, I can't give him a kiss before I go. So it breaks my heart, every time I go, because I'm really tight with my son. Like we're I don't know I don't know how to describe it, but yeah, it's been good. I haven't played a lot aside from Pokemon and Pokemon Go and Pokemon Unite and yeah, Pokemon.
Can you fit some more Pokemon in there?
That's basically it. But I've been able to watch a couple of shows, maybe some movies here and there. So yeah,
All
it's
right.
gonna be a good one.
It definitely is going to be a good one. Rubycat, what about you? We were traveling a little bit this week.
Oh yeah, so last week I was in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I was attending a friend's wedding. The place is very beautiful, large, a lot of like natural resources. Unfortunately, because of the Oregon fires, the place was a little smoky. You could not smell the smoke. You could breathe fine. That wasn't an issue, but you could see a little bit of grayness like at the top. So it was shocking to learn that some fires are in the West Coast can pretty much reach that far and can take an effect on other like towns and states. So besides that, like I've been playing Breath of the Wild. I had my Switch. That's the only thing I could have. And I play very little. Right now I'm focusing on finding more shrines and trying to find the seeds so I can expand my equipment and my shield and everything. And it's been madness so far. So
You
Have you
know,
ever beat that game?
no, I have 3 out of 4 beasts
Oh,
because I've been just like fooling around like the world. I get lost in like little things usually.
it's funny
yeah,
that
that
you.
game. The way I just. Go ahead, Ace, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry. I was gonna say it's funny that she mentioned the having to bring her Switch and that being the only thing that she could do. Because I got stuck at the airport, as you guys know. For I was probably there for about in between flights and everything like that, probably for about 30 hours in order to make it
Yeah.
back. And I had my Switch with me, and somehow I did not even feel like playing it at all. I don't know if it was just I was so exhausted from everything, but
Could
yeah,
be.
Yeah, what I was gonna say is that Breath of the Wild to me, I describe it like as the is an OCD. If you don't know what OCD is, that game is OCD or not OCD. ADHD, attention deficit disorder. Because that game, I remember the way I remember is I would say, okay, I'm gonna go over here, and on my way over here, I see something over here, so let's do that. But on my way over here, I see something in the mountains, so let's do that. But on my way there, there's a dungeon over here, so that game is impossible
Yeah.
for you to do just one thing. It's
That's
designed
exactly
that
me
way.
right now. And you know what? Like there's many reasons why I don't sometimes I don't finish games, and it's because of that exact same reason.
I mean, RPGs and open world sandbox games are designed in that sense, to fool you around and capture attention on side quests and all that. But I think that maybe some other genres are more linear, and I think that you play more RPGs than the most of us, right? So I think maybe you're suffering from that because they tend to do that like a lot.
yeah, it's been happening. You guys know I was playing Dragon Age Inquisition a little bit a couple of weeks ago, and it just happened to me that the way I've been trying to handle it, I don't remember how it is on the Breath of the Wild, but like these areas, because it's not completely open world, but you get like huge areas. So I've been having to go like around, like hugging the corners of the map, and then started filling it up because otherwise, like my OCD won't let me. But yeah, it's like Manuel said, like there's something here popping up and something else popping up. I'm like, okay, I need to like just have a game plan and do it this way because otherwise I'm not doing anything really. I'm just
Well,
walking
my
around.
question is because this I classify games in different ways, right? And for example, when you're talking about Dragon Age, is it do you see what there is to do in a specific area in the map, and you say, okay, let's go one by one, let's check them out off or whatever? How does that work? How do the side missions work in Dragon Age?
Yeah, that's a good question. So if you have already found or you have some side quests in the area before you get there or while you get there, they will pop up and show you in the map where they are. But the map, while you haven't discovered parts, it's just like completely darkened, I guess, would be the word. And so, but the thing is, while you walk around, you still discover other things other than those side quests. So now the map is just filled with other stuff. So, you can go straight to the side quest, but while you walk into the side quest, there's something else is gonna pop up. Or if you go around like that, or if you go straight to stuff, then you might miss a lot of other stuff too.
Yeah,
And
but my question is like what I mean is, for example, when you say they pop up, you mean like if you're walking, all of a sudden an icon shows up. Oh, there's something to do here,
yeah,
something to
it's
explore
gonna pop
here.
up in the map. Yeah. So
Ah, see,
I'm
see,
just
that's
constantly checking the map because it might it's got like a little compass thing, but that's not very accurate. So I just have to keep opening map every time I get to like a new area or stuff like that. And then maybe you'll do a quest or a side quest or this other thing that they have where you have to go to your castle and they have like the war table or something like that it's called. And missions that you do there, basically you send your people out to do stuff is what happens and it goes in real time, and when they come back something else opens up. So it might happen too that they open up areas in those maps and stuff like that, or other quests. So yeah, it's annoying to me because I just want to get in there and get stuff done and get it out, and then I come out and it's like, oh well, there's this other bunch of stuff, and I'm like, okay, I just want to move on with the story. Like at this point I'm like, what, like 50 hours in, and I like stuck
yeah.
basically. Like I'm doing the sweeping job right now so that I can finish the story is what I'm doing.
Yeah, that the reason why I mention it is because Breath of the Wild. The reason why I love Breath of the Wild so much, it's not like that. It's not. I mean, there are certain icons here and there, like when you talk to somebody or whatever, they have something to say, a side mission to give you, that shows up. But in general, it's not. It's not like you can open the map and say, okay, in this area, there's these points of exploration. No, you literally have to be in the world and you see something shining on the in the corner, well, let's investigate that. Or you see this weird rock formation, well, let's go into that cave. And you see this, and it's more organic that way. You're not just checking things off on the list and doing everything
Mhm.
like a Assassin's Creed, for example. You know, you just fill the map and then you just go and do whatever is on the map. It's not really like I don't like they are open world, but they're not open world in the sense that you're immersed in the world and you're just exploring, right? The very few games actually do that, and that's why I think I don't buy the narrative that Breath of the Wild isn't innovative. It's just an open world game, but because it's Zelda, we give it a pass. I think it is innovative because there are few open world games that do it in that way, where you literally have to just observe and say, okay, I'm gonna check what that is. You're not looking at it and say, oh, there's a mission there. You're saying that rock looks weird. Let me just see what it is. And that's something that I really appreciate in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, I would prefer if Dragon Age was like that. That's kind of what drives me crazy about it. Is like I would rather it happen organically that just have everything pop up, and then now my OCD is kicking in that I have to get everything done before I move on.
But you know, the fun thing is that even though you wish that Dragon Age was Breath of the Wild in that sense, you don't enjoy Breath of the Wild as you enjoy um Dragon Age. And it could be tied to maybe your love for the franchise. I know Manuel and I and Rubica we're big on Zelda. I know you're not, but it's weird, you know, because the game could have like literally everything. You know, we're gonna talk about that in a moment, but you know, it needs to get a hook for you. You know, it needs to have something that attracts you, and somehow Breath of the Wild hasn't done that, right?
At least not for Ace, right? It's not. It
And
hasn't
enough
hooked
for
in
Ace,
like
yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah.
I,
Yeah, I
I,
mean, it's just I think you know I got a backlog too. Like it's hard for me to just sit
True.
down and then I started doing this one, and I don't want to go back to being the guy that just leaves everything undone. So I want to pretty much get like at this point I just want to get through this one so I can move on to something else. But I have put it on hold though. We with that, you know, we can go ahead and transition the slide real quick here. Uh, I have moved on a little bit because as you guys know, I was able to get the Series S yesterday. So I
Yeah,
was checking out what's up with Game Pass and all that good stuff. I do have a bunch of games on my older accounts, but I think I'm trying some other stuff. I Let me get started. Then I am gonna go through the entirety of Fable, or if I, you know, as at until the point that I probably get annoyed with the game, I might happening Fable 3 because it's not the best of the series. But you know, I'm gonna try to do that. There's something else I'm playing. I have it on the my PS though. It's the Outer Worlds because it's a short game, and I'm kind of like at this point burnt out, and I'm just trying to get a feel for something else. So that's what I've been playing. I've been
I
doing
have a
2K.
question.
Yes.
I have a question for you. I know you had the Xbox One X, right? Just before it breaks,
The,
right?
yeah. No, I had the X. The I think before your break. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, the One X.
One X. Yeah.
And how much did you miss Game Pass? Because you know, aside from you, I don't know someone that has had Game Pass or an Xbox system, has taken a pause and then go back to it. You know, at least you know I don't know much people that are in the Xbox ecosystem. So I wanted to pitch that question for you.
Yeah,
Did you miss
I
it at
didn't
all?
mean to. So you know, because I thought I was gonna, I was very, you know, like, very excited, of course, to get the PS5 on release. You know, I was very fortunate with that. Uh, they're still rare to come by, but so I focused on that because I had the Xbox, and I was like, well, you know, this I can make deal with this for a little bit, and then it breaks right after, and I'm like, okay, well, I probably felt at some point I was like, man, I should have gone for the series instead of the PlayStation just on Game Pass alone, because I know we had talked about it earlier on other times that we've been together, that the PS5, you know, it didn't seem like for me personally, I got it on release and I was like, okay, so it's cool, it looks good, to load times are fast, The controller is amazing. But then I was like, okay, so I played Astro. It's awesome. I played 2K. It's a little bit better on the on next gen. But then what else is there? You reach that point where not a whole lot of stuff has come out and stuff like that. So, but I was missing it because there's so many games there that I could have, whatever I was feeling at the time, I could go to without having to purchase. Now, I did have a lot of my PlayStation 4 games, but I had mostly beat them already, like the ones that I wanted to play. So yeah, I was jonesing for something new, and I wasn't able to get it because I didn't have Game Pass, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Because I mean, I know that Manuel and Rudica are different from us because we dabble between games, big games. We can play like maybe two, three big games at once because we're like that. We pause one. I know the guys just go straight into one.
Oh, let me
Yeah,
just say
but
let
I
me just
mean,
Start to
say this real
finish.
quick.
yeah, I wanted to say something too.
Quick resume is amazing too. Like I gotta give it to that one too.
Yeah,
Like I always
man.
talking
Yeah,
about how good the PlayStation controller is. Which, by the way, I do have to say, it might be because I've been used to this one for so long, but I'm not feeling the Xbox controller now.
What? Are you crazy?
you're
I'm
not
not
feeling it.
kidding.
Really?
Yeah.
That's
Really?
interesting. That's pretty
See,
interesting.
hot take for me that everybody says is the best one, right? But for
It
some
is.
reason, once
Yeah.
I guess I'm just used to the PlayStation 5 one.
Yeah.
I
But
mean,
I don't know.
the
I'm not feeling it
DualSense.
like I used to, where it was like, oh my god, this is the perfect fit for me to play. I don't know. It's gone for this point. Maybe while I play a little bit more, I'll get back to it. But I just had to say that because I know, we can't leave all the hot takes to Luis. So
Aside from the haptic feedback and all that, which is really good. I would say that the DualSense, it's the biggest control that PlayStation has ever developed, you know, and that on its own, with the added weight that the lithium battery has, it's not as hard to transition from the Xbox Series X controller to the DualSense. So maybe if you have more time with one than the other, maybe I can see, you know, you having that
I
thought
can't
because
even tell what it is. Like I think I do feel like the PlayStation is a little heavier than this one is,
yeah,
but I really
yeah, true,
can't tell what it is, honestly.
yeah. It's bigger, and for I mean, I have little hands, I don't have big hands, but for me, I enjoy big controllers because I do think that I don't know, they're better for my hands even though they're little because I could wrap my hands around them and make better combos, and the triggers, the location of them, they're perfect for me on the Xbox side. But the DualSense, since it's bigger, it I don't know, it's really good, it is.
Meanwhile, the joke of the equation is the Nintendo Switch controller. Man, that controller is the worst. And the buttons are so small, and it's
They're
just
the worst.
terrible to play in
I
for too
don't know
long.
how people do the single play like that. Like I had to buy the controller to just make it like normal because it's too small. Like I feel like it's just gonna fly away even if I use like the
Yeah, the
Yeah,
handle,
sit
to
straps.
secure it.
Yeah,
Straps, no. Like
but
Yeah.
I
yeah.
even with the little thing, because I know Luis has the other the Pro controller or whatever. But even with the adapter where you make it look like a real controller, like it just never feels right. It feels like a toy, and the buttons are so small. I've never enjoyed it. Never liked it.
The thing is that it doesn't have curves, so you can't wrap your hand around them, and they're just flat. And you know, it gets to a point, I don't know, 2 3 hours you're playing Breath of the Wild, and you're like, my hands hurt because I have to do this cringe position like this in order to keep the momentum going on, and yeah, it hurts definitely.
Breath of the Wild, it might be me that I just don't know how to play it, but like I hate the left joystick because you have the camera and you also move the character in just one little pressure and you're in camera mode in the middle of a boss battle. And I'm like, "Ah, this
Yeah.
is so annoying. Why is it the same like joystick? It should have been something else, you know?
At
Like at least
first,
for
at
me.
first glance, Breath of the Wild it might have the worst control scheme for beginners ever. because it's really hard. The learning curve there is really hard. After you get a hold of it, you'll feel like a pro. But at first, man, it's just the worst. Even for Zelda players, it's horrible. Yeah, it's pure hell at
All right.
first.
Before I say back about the rest of the stuff that I have been doing, do we have a really good question here from Tease? He's asking about our favorite console. We've been replying on the chat, but
Okay, I'm
for
sorry.
the benefit of everybody that will be watching the video instead of being here live with us, I said PS2. I think I mean, it was really good console, really great catalog of games. Some of it might be nostalgia. It was probably like the best time as a gamer that I could have in terms of time for playing and stuff like that. So actually being able to enjoy it, I think that would be my pick real quick. Manuel, you had a few different options there.
Yeah, actually, I have to add another option too, the N64. So basically, I have no answer to that question. I don't know what my favorite
I can't
console
say
is.
N64 because I actually didn't own it. I played it, but I didn't own it, so that's why.
Yeah, because the thing is that when you ask a question like that, like so many things run into my head. What do you mean best? Do you mean my favorite?
Yeah,
Do you mean like what exactly does all of this mean?
I just said
So it's
okay. The first thing that came to my head was that.
yeah. So the P I think there's a strong argument that if you're talking about the best console of all time, the PS2 is right there. Like that, there's an argument that that's the best generation for consoles. But there's also that's always on par with the SNES because the SNES is what started a lot of the things that we still play today. Like it was that it brought JRPGs to the West, and we have one of the best Mario's of all time there. We have Donkey Kong. We have so much stuff for the SNES. It's just so iconic. The music is so iconic. So I tend to lean more towards the SNES versus the PS2. But like I said in the comment, the PS3 is the console that I most remember playing indie games. Like I would just play a bunch of indie games. That was my indie type game console. And I'm more of an indie game player today than I am a AAA game player. So that's the console that did that to me. But then I say N64 because N64 was the first console that I bought with my own money, and it brought me Mario. It brought me my among other things my favorite game of all time, which is Ocarina of Time. And then we have that Mario 64, GoldenEye. So I can't really pick a console. I think I would have to think about it a little bit more.
That's why you want to ask these questions to Manuel because he will tell you
Yeah,
everything you need to know.
I have a hot take. I have a hot take.
Of course you do.
Where's my buzzer?
Nobody
Where's my
is surprised.
buzzer?
You still
I
gotta
have my
wait because I
buzzer.
don't have a thing. Do you have something?
I have my crocodile Dundee.
Okay,
Yeah.
the
Okay.
alligator Loki.
Yeah, Loki, Gator, whatever. Loki. Um. Okay. So I said to Manuel a while ago. I don't know why we were having this conversation, but it came out of left field, and I was saying, you know, I'm mostly a Nintendo gamer, even though I've owned every PlayStation console ever, even the PS Vita, even the handhelds. Um, and I love them all, and I played every exclusive available until some of the PS4. But yeah, most of it I played. But I consider myself like a Nintendo gamer for most of the time because I don't know, nostalgia maybe, or maybe because Nintendo has the franchises that I don't know that are dear to my heart, whatever. But the thing is that I thought, man, the Switch might be my favorite console of all time. Because even though the SNES, it's true, it what else has a really good point. It brought all the arcade games, all the good things from PC back into the console spectrum. The Switch is special, man. The Switch is phenomenal. You could argue, man, it doesn't have the high tech the other big two have. It doesn't have great controls because it really doesn't have them. Um, but there's something to it. When I remember just playing Breath of the Wild for the first time and just seeing that commercial, the ad that says you can have it on your TV and then you're click the Joy Cons and you're ready to go. I was like, that's fake because I owned the Wii U. And I was like, that wasn't true. I couldn't be outside my room with the Wii U gamepad. But when that happened and it clicked, I was like, man, this is something else. This has to be like, the story of the consoles have to be, set in stone. Like there is a time when we didn't have the Switch, and there has to be a time after the Switch. And I don't know, in my mind, I'm trying to figure out why I'm saying this, because it still has a long ways to go. There are franchises that have not been present, like Metroid and some others, but I don't know, man. It's just pure magic. The Switch is it's there. I can have my Switch while I was like giving my toddler a pat on his back when he was sleeping. How many consoles can you compare to that? Yeah, I don't know. It's just special. I think my the Switch might be my
Yeah,
favorite console
you
of
know
all time.
what's crazy. Even though I think that's crazy that the Switch is the best console, but it's your favorite console, right? We can't
Yeah,
really we can't really argue with what
You
your
can't
favorite,
say.
right?
You see, if
Yeah,
it would have been something else, he'd be like, I don't agree. I
yeah,
think you're wrong. This is why
yeah.
you're wrong, but it's your opinion, so you can't be wrong.
Yeah, but what I did want to say is that because he's
Oh,
100% right that we have gaming history. We're gonna remember a time before and after the Switch, like that before that
definitely.
happened and after that happened. But it's interesting because we can say that with all Nintendo consoles.
Yeah,
Well, not with all of them, but with most of them. Like we can there is a time before and after 16-bit music and graphics, which is the Super Nintendo, right? The SNES. There's a time before 3D worlds. That's the N64. They're the first to do that. It wasn't PlayStation or what it was. It was N64. There's a time before gaming where you could control the camera with a joystick. Like joysticks didn't exist before the N64, if I'm not mistaken. Right? The PS2, I think, did it afterwards, and that came years later. So
the
there's a
PS1 I think did it before.
yeah, but they added it after. They did
True,
they
true.
added it. It didn't come with joysticks or whatever. They added it after it was a thing already.
Yeah,
So there's a time before and after we had motion controls in video games. That's the Wii. So if you think about it, Nintendo is consistently the ones that push at least innovation forward in the video game space, and that's pretty crazy.
definitely. Yeah.
before we keep moving on, I don't know with the room cat. You didn't even say that yours. Did you? You said it on
Uh,
the chat, but you didn't say what here.
so mine is the PlayStation 2. I mean, obviously, again, we
That's a
said
good
that
pick.
it had the best catalog of them all. I agree with that. Also, when you think about like the graphics portion from PlayStation 1 to PlayStation 2, that was huge. Like before you could not like even tell which character is what. Like they didn't have eyes or something, and now characters look on PlayStation look like people at least. So that was huge. Also, you could have that PlayStation 2 on and on and on and on and you wouldn't die. Like my PlayStation 2, I don't even know if it's alive or not just because I haven't been back to Puerto Rico in years. But the last time I left, the PlayStation 2 was working. So like that console doesn't die. It was well built. So no questions asked. For me, it's PlayStation 2. Nothing compared
Did
with
you know,
that
Ruby Cat,
era.
that Russians bought like a huge amount of PS2s just in order to make missiles? Did you know about that?
Oh yeah.
That's how powerful it was. That machine was just phenomenal. Yeah, definitely.
You know what's funny that we're talking about the graphics jump, and within the same console, for me it was starting out with just RPGs when I first put in the disc for Final Fantasy VIII after having played 7. That was the big gap for me where I was like, oh, like, wow, this is pretty crazy within the same console,
Well,
though.
the reason why I actually bought a PS2. Now that you say that, I've never told this story. I was at gym class in high school or whatever, or junior high school. I think I was in the U.S. in the States, and somebody had a magazine, a game. I don't know if it was Game Informer or whatever. And I saw a picture of Final Fantasy VIII, which is a PS1 game. Final Fantasy VIII running on the PS1 and Final Fantasy VIII running on the PS2. And the article was about how the PS2 was going to make old games look better and run better or whatever. And that's me, as a kid, that blew my mind. So I bought PS2 just for that. And that's actually one of the reasons why Final Fantasy VIII is one of my favorite games of all time.
It just has a little bit of everything for you, right? That just keep bringing
Yeah.
you back to being one of your favorites. So the rest of the stuff that I've been playing 2K. We like I'm moving to the X. Well, I'm not moving. I'm gonna end up playing it on both. I have our friend Yadier that he has it. We're gonna be getting sharing of the Xbox for 22, and so we're gonna be doing a few things there. So I'm able to, as you guys know, the majority of my community comes from 2K, so I will be able to do a little bit of everything on both consoles. The series the WWE 2K series that is coming back. If you guys don't know, if you missed when we had that around, Luis is our YouTube champion and I am the Twitch champion right now. Our characters are, so that's definitely gonna be a fun time. And last but not certainly not least, I finished Miles Morales. I wanted to say that because we
Yeah,
had talked about it. We had talked about it. You guys were leading me on to that. I had to finish it, and I did. And
how was it?
it was great. I loved it. I love how personal the story was. I felt it better than the Peter Parker
That's
one. Uh, it was shorter, but I kind of hit all the notes. It was, even though it's kind of made on the well, it's made on the same engine and everything like that. It had its own flavor. It was They were able to differentiate it properly. The kind of music, the style, his style, that all those kind of things. That he is his own man, and funnily enough, that's part of the journey, right? And the ending of everything on him becoming his own man. And I thought that was very, very well done.
Yeah,
yeah.
and going back to the first one, Marvel Spider-Man, after playing Miles Morales, I appreciate that those little touches more now because I didn't even like think about it a lot in the first time I played it. You know how Peter and Miles are having conversations in the first game about training and all of that stuff, and it's so awesome to know where that evolved. You know, like what they did with that in Miles Morales and how that character evolved too, from just basically a little boy, and at the end of it, he's a lot more mature. I wanted to ask you, did you anticipate the twist of the enemy, the
I
villain, the main villain? Did you know
No,
before?
no, I didn't know before. It caught me off
Really?
guard because it was like, because I went through it fairly quickly, uh, but yeah, somehow it still kind of stung. It's not like, because you meet her and stuff like that. I didn't know. I don't know much about Miles other than he's Puerto Rican as well, like us represent. So, but I didn't know a whole lot of the comic history and that kind of thing. So it's just I was just going through it the same as I mean I assume it would be better for you in some regards to not know, so that it catches you off guard like that. So yeah,
Mm.
you meet her and I'm like, okay, this is cool. A little. I feel kind of like it would feel for us, like getting back together after a little bit, and then something like that just probably like what. So yeah, it hit me out of nowhere, which I appreciated. No
Yeah.
spoilers or anything like that. I was
Yeah, I didn't,
able
I
to.
That's
didn't,
cool.
I didn't expect it either, and I remember because I recorded when I played it the first time. I recorded it on YouTube, and then I played it on my own. And I remember my first video when I played it, and the first time you meet the the her, and I was like, oh, this is gonna be the romantic, how do you call it, the romantic character or whatever,
Love
in
interest. Yeah.
interest, yeah, the romantic interest, and she's probably gonna die or whatever. Like I thought that's what it
That's where
was,
we're going.
and yeah, and it kind of was, but the twist, I was like, oh, I did not expect that. But the reason why I didn't expect it, I think it has more to do with me. Like, it's not so much that the game did a good job of hiding it. Maybe it did, but it's that I was so invested. I was like, okay, as soon as I saw her, I put it in my mind, okay, this is the love interest. And once I got that in my head, I couldn't get it out. And therefore, I couldn't see anything else. And that's interesting because that's what happens to Miles, right? The reason why
True.
Miles doesn't realize is because he's so focused on this thing. So he's like, no, this is my family, or this is, and that blinds him to what's possible. And I felt really identified with that scene.
I gotta say
Yeah.
too, that ending, it just hit. Like I said, it felt so personal. And even though Marvel Spider-Man kind of had something going like that with the Doc Ock relationship and stuff like that, I feel like it was just so much personal, so much more relatable in some way. How they did it on this one, and it just hit on all notes. Like, I'm not gonna spoil too much, but when she said like I think what she said was "let go," and that just gave
Mhm.
me chills.
Yeah.
It was
I
it was
didn't.
brutal. I'm not gonna lie.
You know, another hot take. I I
Oh,
enjoyed the ending. I love that ending. You know, it was really personal. I agree with both of you guys. I don't agree with the part of not finding out, even though I don't know who she was from the comic side. You know, I've read my
I
very
mean, I'm sorry
fair
to
share.
interrupt you, but it's not a matter of agreeing or agreeing. You probably just anticipated it more, and we didn't,
Yeah,
right? So yeah.
yeah, true. But yeah, I didn't love the ending. I mean, not the ending, the final boss fight. I didn't love it. And I think it had to do with the fact that maybe in my mind, and I know you don't feel like this because you know we've talked about this before on our personal chat, but I feel like Miles is way too OP for his world, right? He's never like properly challenged in my mind, and I do think that maybe you know when you go to meet Doc Ock, you're in that same position, but Peter has this other suit, you know that's made to tackle Doc Ock, so you're supposed to feel OP, but maybe I thought in my mind that maybe Miles should be more concerned about his safety at the end. So that's my only thing. Like I'm maybe nitpicking, but that was my only concern on the final boss fight. But aside from that,
No, man, it's like
yeah,
you are nitpicking.
yeah. But the ending hit all the right notes, and I would say that the epilogue, you know, the missions with you know the recordings, all that. I'm not
Oh
gonna
my
spoil them.
god.
They
Yes.
they hit deep. So yeah, that
I am
Did you
think
kudos to
did you
I,
guys do the sound sign mission? I imagine
yeah,
not.
that's so cool.
no,
Did you
I
do it,
didn't
Ace?
know, but
Yeah, because you didn't do a
I
lot of
don't plan
side
to go back
missions.
yet. But
That's so cool.
So
I don't
so
want
so
I appreciate that you guys didn't tell me about it because it was just another thing that just hit
yeah.
deep. So I'm not gonna spoil it for anybody else. But if you play it and when you're done, do yourself a favor and get on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a basically a mission after you beat the game that's very very emotional, and also the trophy that you did that I didn't tell you, that's also a pretty awesome trophy. The
And also,
the statue one.
before we leave Miles, I want to address something that it's rarely seen in video games because we are in a culture right now that glorifies dysfunctional families, right? So we see families teared up, you know, they're broken into pieces, they're not functional, you know, you see people like screaming at home, arguing a lot, and something that was so special, you know, and that it hit me personally is maybe because my mom is like that too, but you know Miles' mom, you know, the way she calls Miles and tells him I love you papito, all of that, I got chills every time that happened because I was like, you know, that's my mom. You know, you know, she's calling me. You know, I'm doing this and that, and she's just like that. You know, so that was portrayed in such a beautiful way that yeah, kudos to that. You know, there are good families over there. You know, there are good examples of people. You know, not perfect people, but people that try their best to you know to make their kids grow in a stable home, healthy, you know, mentally and physically. So kudos to that.
I
Kudos
do
to
have to
Yeah,
Miles.
but
say
I did want
too
to
that
say I know
yeah, go ahead.
you want I know you want to move on, but the my main critique with Miles is because I want to say this because what Luis was mentioning, you know, with the relationship with the mom and whatnot. I think that's one of the okay. The when that scene when he reveals to his mom that he's Spider Man, right? That he's Spider Man. I feel like that's a missed opportunity to make you cry, right? Because
I think
you
it was
just
a
came
weak
out of
point
the
also.
yeah, you just came off of that confrontation with the villain, and you realize who she is or whatever, and that like Miles should be destroyed emotionally because of what just happened, right? He shouldn't just be hurt physically. He should be destroyed emotionally because he has to fight someone he loves, you know. And when he's all beat up physically, and then his mom comes in, like that should have been such an emotional moment. Like he should have just broke down crying. Like I have something to tell you. Like this is I can't take this, you know. And for him to say, well, I think I got to tell you something, and then he tells her that he's Spider Man. It's like, man, it was just such a missed moment to just really really make you cry, make you feel for what he's feeling. And I think Yeah, that's a missed moment. It's a
As
missed
the
opportunity.
motion, as the emotional as the game itself was all around, I think I agree. I definitely agree with you, and that was a missed opportunity. Like that would have been an incredibly emotional moment. Just her knowing that this is going on too, and for for him, everything that he went through at this point, it was absolutely a missed opportunity. I do want to say though that you were absolutely on point recommending this game to me because you knew exactly, I guess, what I was looking for. I didn't, and then you hit me with it, and I absolutely enjoyed the heck out of it, like we says. Um, that's what I've been up to basically for the past few weeks. In terms of gaming, Manuel, you continue to play Metal Gear. You said, and with that, I do want to leave you some space to bring the Kojima section. I don't have the slide just yet, but you can go ahead and give us the Kojima section, and then keep going with the rest of your games that you've been playing.
Well, I guess we can talk about the Kojima thing afterward because we're still talking about like what we're playing, right?
Okay,
I don't
yeah,
wanna
let's do
hold
that then.
anybody up.
All right.
So basically, yeah, I've been playing Metal Gear Solid 5. There's really not a lot for me to say. I will say though that I am starting to lose a little bit of interest. I'm starting to lose a little bit of steam. And that worries me because the whole point of playing the game was to do the platinum. So what's the point of investing time if I'm not even gonna do the platinum? So I'm kind of worried there that I am losing steam, and I can't put it. I guess it's a type of game that since you have to do everything perfectly to get an S rate ranking or whatever, and that's impossible on the first playthrough, right? And every time somebody catches me or whatever, like I just turn the console off and I don't feel like playing anymore. And
Mm.
I think that's what's really holding me up. Like the fact that I'm not doing as good as I want to, and I know that the story doesn't finish strong, so I'm not really looking forward to the ending. So I'm kind of losing steam on Metal Gear Solid 5, but I want to push through because I really want to do that. But what I have been playing, I downloaded 2 games this past week, and the first one is Twin Breakers. The second one is Habroxia 2. So this is interesting for a couple of reasons. Like these are 2 indie games, very small, short games. I beat both of them in like one sitting, one day, one day or two. I did one platinum, which is the Habroxia 2 platinum, and both of them they cost like $4 or $5. So Habroxia 2 basically is a 2D side scrolling space shooter. That's basically what it is. So it's like I don't know if any of you guys ever played R Type or Resogun. R-Type is from the SNES era or whatever. It's basically a ship flying sideways and just shooting enemies, right? That's basically what the game is. But the reason why these games are different, right? Habroxia, for example, it takes that genre that doesn't exist anymore. Like you can't find R-Type games anymore. Those 2D side scrolling that doesn't really exist anymore. It's not a thing. And this game takes that genre that is dead and it gives it a something new, right? And how the way it makes it new is that it's like playing a twin stick shooter, but in 2D space. So and what I mean by that is that you can shoot all 360. Like you control with the right joystick. You control the ship with the left joystick, and you shoot with the right joystick, and you shoot in all directions, right? And you can fly, you can float around. And when I first put the game on, I was looking forward to R type of game. And when I noticed that it was more of a twin stick shooter, I was like, this is kind of like it's gonna be difficult because it's very difficult to get used to that and to aim. But then immediately I realized, this is why like this changes the game because now you can move around enemies in a way you couldn't do with 2D side scrolling games. There are even boss fights that you have to go around in a 360 to shoot them in different angles and avoid in different angles. And there are certain levels where you're moving sideways, and then all of a sudden it transitions to vertical. So that a 2D side scrolling shooter vertically done, it just changes it completely. Like, that's just a different game, and is much more challenging or whatever. So I respect it for that. It's not gonna be on my list for my favorite games of all time or anything, but I respect it because it took a genre that was dead and it made it something different. And the same goes for Twin Breakers. So Twin Breakers is basically a brick breaker. These games on the cell phone where on the bottom you have like this little thing going. You can control like a bar or whatever going side by side, and then the ball bounces and you bounce the ball and it breaks the bricks on the top, right? You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
So basically you play that on your phone or whatever. It's an old type of game. So you would basically the point of the game is just to break the bricks, right, and get points or whatever. And that's what Twin Breaker is. And you don't think like, why would that exist? Like that's another genre that basically nobody makes that type of game anymore, right? Much less for a PlayStation console or whatever. And this game is called Twin Breakers for a number of reasons, right? But one of the reasons is that it you control two sticks at the same time. So at all times, you're controlling one stick with the left joystick and one stick with the right joystick. So you're moving them in different and simultaneously and bouncing the ball back and breaking the bricks and getting points or whatever. And then every few levels, it has 40 levels. So every 10 levels, it has a boss fight. So already you're like, wait, a break breaking game that has bosses? Like that's very different, very different from what you're used to. And when you beat a boss, it transitions and it adds another element that makes it more difficult. So you start off with controlling two I don't know even know how to call two platforms, right? With the joysticks. And then you move on and now that you're controlling them vertically. So that changes the game. Now it's vertically, it's not horizontal anymore. And then this is where the game just blew my mind, and my mind just I couldn't function, right? I couldn't wrap my head around it. And then you have to control two vertical and two horizontal, but individually. So with the left joystick, you have to move up and down to control the vertical one, and left and right to control the horizontal one. And the same goes for the right and with the right joystick. So you're controlling four different things individually with the ball just bouncing back and forth. And it has power ups, it has enemies, it has all this stuff. Like and my mind just couldn't wrap my hand around it. Like I did it. But I gotta be honest, I hated every single minute of it. And every single minute of me playing this game, I absolutely hated it. And the reason why I hated it was because I just couldn't. My mind doesn't work that way. I don't know what it is, but mine doesn't work that way.
It's not your mind. I think like as humans, we have a dominant side of the brain, right? And having to do all those things, you're using either one or the other, and having to use everything at the same time, you might have a conflicting, reaction because maybe
Yeah.
you're more right-sided and left-sided. So
Yeah, and I could notice as I'm playing like that my mind wasn't grasping it because at times, for example, I could see the ball was gonna go off and I was gonna lose, but I would just stay there and I would just look at the ball and I would lose. And then after I lose, I would say, "Oh wait, I should have moved." It's my mind just
You
didn't
couldn't
react
react.
right. Yeah, I couldn't react. Now, having said that, and plus it has a bunch of stuff going on, like the points, the enemies, and like you're not just paying attention to the ball. It's a lot of stuff. And to add on top of that, both games have stories. So that's another thing that in these types of games don't have stories, right? And these games, they have genuine stories and they're well written. They're talking about space travel and the future and all that stuff. It's pretty awesome. This is the reason why I play these games. And I know that Ruby Cat and Ace won't. I'm going to say this name. You're not going to know who I'm talking about, but I know Luis is going to know who I'm talking about. The one who made this game is called Colin Moriarty. So I'm sure you guys haven't heard of him. Only Luis has heard of him. Basically, I'm not gonna get really into it. Basically, he's this guy from Kind of Funny podcast that we listen to, whatever. And he left the podcast a few years ago, and now he does his own thing. And amongst the things that he's doing, he's making video games, which is pretty awesome. I follow him on Twitter and whatnot. So basically, when I play these games, it feels like I'm playing a game made by somebody that I know, like a friend of mine. It feels like a friend of mine made this game, so I'm gonna play it, right? And it's very interesting to see what he did with these games because, like I said, neither of these games are my favorite games of all time. Like I'm never gonna play them again. But I got to respect the creativity, like the originality, what he did with these games. And when you turn the game on, it says you work hard for your money, so and you have little time. So thank you for choosing to buy and play our game. And he's that type of guy. Like Colin Moriarty is that type of guy that is like that. And I don't know, it's just a crazy experience. I wanted to say real quick, unless you guys have questions about both games. The reason why it's important, the Colin Moriarty thing. It's not just because of what I just said. It's because, and this might be a conversation for another time, whatever. Man, my camera turned off.
Every time when he's going off deep about something.
Well, I don't. My other battery doesn't have a lot of battery either, so we'll see. Let me change it real quick. All right. So it should be back in a couple seconds.
Nah.
So the reason why the Colin Moriarty thing is important in the industry, in the video game industry, there's a lot going on, right? We know that. I don't know. There's a lot of controversies going on, right? But Colin is a guy that he started this podcast, right? Kind of Funny podcast or whatever, and he was there with them for a few years. And on Women's Day or whatever, I think it was a few years back, he made a joke on Twitter. and the joke said the joke basically just said silence. That's pretty much all it said. And it was because on that day women had decided to not go to work or whatever. I can't remember the exact details. They were trying to make the world fear what would it would be like if women didn't exist, right? And Colin wrote on Twitter, silence. So it was a joke saying, since women aren't around, we finally have silence, right? That was basically the joke he did. And Twitter went crazy, and they got on him, and that led to a schism between him and Kind of Funny, and he left Kind of Funny, and he started his own thing, and it's been pretty crazy ever since, right? He has one of the biggest PlayStation podcasts in existence right now, like one of the biggest right now, and yet none of us, right? If you don't follow him, none of us have ever heard of it, and yet it's crazy popular. Colin Moriarty has the number one gaming Patreon that exists right now. None of us have ever heard of him, right? Or none of you guys has ever heard of him. I'm pretty sure nobody in the chat has ever heard of him. So my point is that this guy is so interesting because I've never seen somebody that is so popular and yet so marginalized at the same time. Like nobody knows of him because nobody messes with him. Nobody wants to work with him. Everybody has him blocked in the gaming industry. And nobody goes on his podcast. Right now, Psychonauts 2 came out, or no, they did a preview for Psychonauts 2, and they gave games to a bunch of reviewers or whatever. You got the guy that has the number one PlayStation podcast. He doesn't get a review copy, so he can't play it, right? He can't play it. And then when he logged on Twitter and he tried to check out the page, he put the post, and he's been blocked by the creators of Psychonauts 2 for no reason, right? Like for absolutely no reason. So anyway, I don't want to get too long in the tooth here, but the reason why I mentioned this is because that's the reason why I played the game. I wanted to see what it was all about. And I really, really do find it interesting and scary that we live in a world where people like Colin, just because of their political beliefs, because that's the reason, just because of what you believe, you have to be shunned from the industry. You can't be part of this, And it's just pretty crazy. It's pretty crazy. I'm curious to see what happens in his future.
I think we have dabbled a little bit, talked a little bit about this kind of surrounding themes of this. Uh, we could definitely have a podcast or two with that subject. However, we'll probably get canceled immediately right after, and that's what the problem is. I absolutely agree with you. We're gonna speak our mind and immediately get canceled for it because this is the type of culture that we're in right now. And by no means am I not saying that there is this stuff that this should not be spoken up about, but we tend to this society, with the rise of social media and stuff like that. I think they're taking it a little too far.
I
And
do. I'm gonna take it to an extreme. I'm gonna say what you don't. What you say we shouldn't say certain things. In my opinion, there's nothing should be off the table in terms of freedom of speech,
yeah,
except for inciting violence towards somebody, right? Like that's not protected by free speech. But I don't think there's any topic that should be off the table for at least discussion, right? You sure? I agree with you. We should be respectful and all of that stuff. But
it's
if
just
I'm not respectful, does that mean I shouldn't be able to speak? Like just because I'm not considered respectful, like that's what I fear. That's why I think we should be able to
I'm
talk
gonna
through
take
this.
it the other way with what you said. It might not even have to be like we can probably be respectful about it, and still somebody's gonna be offended. That's the real
Yeah,
problem.
Yeah, but
there's
who
gonna
cares
be
though? That's my
some.
Like
point, right?
I'm just talking like we talk our opinions here. Like if you like this is not set of stone. This is not we're not arguing. This is how it is or whatever. We have opinions. It's an opinion show. If you have a problem with that, you can come with the chat or anything like that. Let us know what you think, and we will respect that your opinion as well. But you don't need to take offense for us thinking differently. It's
Yeah. Also, I would say that to add to this topic, I'm afraid that the word redemption has fallen off a cliff in our society, and we do not like let anyone um have at least the slightest chance of redemption. We see someone do something um that it's considered offensive to the most of us, right? To the majority, and there's no way that this person could be back up on his feet. You know, it has to be like a weird, out of left field example, like maybe James Gunn. You know, comes into my mind. But aside from him, I don't recall someone that I know of. You know, at least in a public banner, that has been able to enjoy the word redemption and what that means for us as humans. Because you know, I'm really cautious in the way that I speak, and you know, I might get mad sometimes. I might, you know, like stay silent of some topics, but you know, I try to be really cautious, and it's really weird for me to like fall off a cliff and to really like hugely offend someone. But I'm human, right? I'm susceptible to that. Yeah, I could do that any given day, you know, even me not wanting to. And that fears me, you know, the fact that I could be there and not have the ability to get back on the horse, you know, get some respect back onto my side. That's weird, you know, to think about it. But society is just like that, you know, and us as, you know, public people. I know Ruby Cat is more shy on her platforms, but you know, us as influencers or people that you know speak on podcasts and do streams and all that, we're just seconds away of doing that. You know, we're always in that cliff. So I don't know, it's scary. You know,
I think,
platforms are
yeah,
scary
I
for me.
And
think
get
that redemption point is an excellent point to make. I mean, for myself, I think about, when I was younger and I was immature. Like, should I not get a chance now because I said something dumb back then? I mean, that was me. That literally was me. Like, you guys know
Yeah,
me from a long time ago, and I'm not the same person. But that's the thing. Like, am I allowed the growth? Is it gonna be, can I get recognized for having that growth as opposed to, oh well, you said this dumb thing a million years ago, so forever, now you're canceled or
you're
whatever
stuck
it
with
may
it.
be.
Yeah,
Yeah, you're
you
stuck with a stigma of being something that you've grown out of, pretty much.
you can
definitely.
grow up. You just have to do it behind doors with your loved ones,
That's
because
interesting.
nowadays, being under the public eye, people expect you to be perfect, and that definition of perfect changes constantly. Whatever is like the latest trend, you have to follow even if you don't agree with it. And it has become very toxic because it's not only what you say and how you portray yourself, but changing like how you look, your body, everything to fit standards, so you don't get canceled or you don't lose
True.
followers or anything. So the redemption mark, I agree, like the cancel culture is, it's too brutal.
It's not
It
even
is.
up
And
to
the thing
you. Like, I can say something and mean it one way, and it was misconstrued, and now it's out there something that I didn't really say at all, but people took it that way. Now it's that I'm canceled for it. Like, it's just so
is,
many variants that you're not. It might not even
Yeah.
be your fault.
I just don't even understand, because at least how I grew up and in the time that I grew up, like my family teach me values, right? And at the same time they teach me like, hey, somebody's bothering you or doing something wrong, you go defend yourself, you be strong, like get out there. And now people, I think, get offended easily, and I don't understand what happened with that growing up message of like being strong and standing up for yourself, and knowing that there's good things and bad things, and you might hear this, but it's your choice how you interpret it, and it's your choice how you move on from this. And it's now like, I'm offended, I'm gonna cry, I'm depressed, you said something like, I don't get it.
Well,
I
Well,
next
don't get
it's
it.
week
And
the
I'm
it's
rest
not
of
trying
us
to
is
be.
gonna be here. Rubicat said that people get offended easily, so now somebody got offended. So next week is gonna be me, Manuel, and Luisa.
so basically, right, and this is like the last thing I want to say about it. Is basically the reason why this happens, and is because the way things work is that we what is that word, something correct, you correct too much.
Politically correct? Oh
No, no, no. When
no.
you correct too much, you go too far in the right direction, right? So
Mhm.
basically, in the past, we were overcorrect. I think overcorrect is the word, right? So we overcorrect. That's the way society works. And so we were in the 90s or in the 80s or whatever, like we have to admit, at least me that I grew up in the 80s and 90s, like we were fierce, right? Like we would say stuff that we would never dream of saying today. We would think stuff and do stuff that's just is crazy. Like I'm just think about how bullying used to be, and it still is, right? We just don't hear about it as much. But in the early 2000s, bullying was brutal. Like it was brutal in the 90s and early 2000s. It was brutal. Like people commit suicide just because of bullying. Like it's something extreme, right? It's very
Mhm.
very extreme. So in response to that, what society does is that we overcorrect. So we go into the other extreme, and the other extreme is you can't say anything, right? So now everything is we're too sensible, we're PC culture and all that stuff. Eventually, though, we kind of swing back and we're in the middle, like that, and that's what we're waiting for right now. And I think we're starting to see of that moving back towards the center. But in the past few years, we've been in the overcorrecting stage. So that's just something that happens in society. Like it always happens. When there's something wrong with the world, we tend to overcorrect, and then eventually we kind of move back in the middle. And right now, we're in the overcorrect phase, and that's why all of this is happening. But I expect things to eventually go back more towards the middle. We have to find some middle ground.
There's hoping. All right, we're at, you know, speaking of offensive things, we're gonna talk about Space Jam. Speaking of offensive things, we're gonna talk about Space. No, I don't want to spend too much. I have talked about it with you guys before. We were in Manuel's podcast to talk about it. I felt like it was a Warner Brothers ad, pretty much. I didn't love it. I concurred with Manuel, who said that he thought, the weakest part was what was built up to was the basketball game itself, because we didn't really know the rules, and so when something happened, we didn't know, are they winning, are they like what happened. So it's kind of weak. But I do know that I missed the point in those things, and it might be because, and I have to say that disclaimer as well, because I didn't grow up with most of these things as most other people did. I enjoyed the first one. I was younger back then, and it was an interesting premise and this and that. I like cartoons. I like basketball, but here, I'm a little older, a little jaded, like Manuel says. And I don't really have those feelings for the properties, so it felt like to me that it was an ad, but I can definitely see it. uh, everybody else that does enjoy that haven't enjoyed the movie, as well as kids as well. It's not a bad kids movie, but that was my feeling about it. Anybody
Um,
else will say something?
I enjoyed it. I didn't love it
Of course you
because
enjoyed it. I just said it
you
was
know,
good for kids.
in my mind, I think people try to, I don't know, see the first one as this epic movie, and I know it has, you know, good. I mean,
It's more that it
it,
was like cultural phenomenon, I think,
yeah, it
other
has a
than
good foundation. It
not
has
a
a good
good not a good
foundation.
movie, but it was like a cultural
No,
phenomenon
I
thing.
disagree with
that's the
both of you,
thing.
but
Of course,
okay.
we are disagreeing with each other, and you disagree
Yeah.
with both of us. Like
No,
he
no
always finds a
phenomenon.
way.
It's true.
But the thing about the first movie, Looney Tunes. I asked Ruby Cap just before we went live if she, you know, liked Looney Tunes, because the thing about Looney Tunes is that even though Manuel might be the older of us, Looney Tunes is not Manuel's cartoons as a kid. Those are his mom and dad cartoons, right? So Hanna Barbera, all of those properties, those are our parents' cartoons. Is the thing is that they tried so hard to revive those properties from time and time again that we ended up seeing them, right? And we enjoyed them for the most of the part. Um, so the first movie, it tackled retirement. That was the thing. Looney Tunes retiring, Jordan is retiring, everybody else is retiring, and the old guys still got it. So that was the main topic of the first movie, and to that sense, it delivered. I'm not saying that it did bad on that regard, but Jordan was a bad actor. Okay, Jordan was a legend. Jordan was a bad actor. which makes LeBron be a better actor, which is bad to say that. But the thing is that this movie, maybe I went in like thinking that this would be horrible, and it ended up being not as horrible as I thought. Maybe that's my take. But this movie has heart. It does. It has a really good message for youngsters. It's not about basketball. It's not even about Looney Tunes, because even though I enjoy Looney Tunes and I love Animaniacs and most of the WB properties, which I'm not ashamed of admitting. The thing is that this movie could have not been made only with the Looney Tunes in mind, because people nowadays they don't enjoy Looney Tunes. I'm sorry, but Rick and Morty are better for today's audience. Harry Potter, and even Godzilla and Kong, which sold huge amounts of money, better than Black Widow even. So I would say that I enjoyed the fact that it did more than it should, because the first one, it was simple, for the most part. And here I think they did some cool choices. The animation here was slick. It was really well produced, and the music here is really good. Not as good as the score of the first one, which was an album track, but most '90s movies were a CD track. So I don't know how
So
to
I have
describe
a
it.
question for you, because you
Yeah.
were saying that Looney Tunes are only like Manuel's era or Manuel's parents' era. What kind of TV were you watching? Because you and I are the same age, and I was watching Looney Tunes in the local TV. Like there was
Yeah.
nothing else to watch.
What I mean is that yeah, I watched Looney Tunes, when I was growing up. What I meant was that there were not our cartoons because they were not founded on our time. Because Looney Tunes are dated, like maybe 60s to 50s, I think. They started back then. So that's why I say that there are parents' cartoons that they lasted so long that they're still here. And that's great, but they're not. I mean, Pokemon and DVC, those are our cartoons. Maybe He-Man, even though I wasn't for He-Man. I don't like He-Man. That's my hot take. It's a bad thing, and they should let it die. But anyway, and Thundercats too. Just roll it up
Hey,
and let
come
it
on.
die. Okay.
Leave the
Oh,
Thundercats alone. They didn't do
wow.
nothing to you.
I mean, SWAT cats were cool.
Oh my
SWAT
god,
cats
Swakas were
were dope.
amazing.
Okay, and Shark Attack and TMNT, those were the good ones. But yeah, Thundercats and He-Man, they can roll it up in a ball
I
just
might
to
fire up some
survive.
Swakas after we're done here.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So yeah, that was my take on it. Rubica, how did you enjoy
She loved it.
For me, well, I mean, I didn't like the first one. I didn't like the second one because it's not my thing.
Let's
Mixing
go.
Looney Tunes and basketball to me doesn't, like, it would have worked if it would have been like the cartoon, the old cartoon, like a special, like Christmas special basketball edition or something, but not putting like a superstar like Jordan or LeBron or whatever. Like it just didn't work for me. Like I guess I'm lacking imagination to enjoy that type of movie. And I don't
It's
know,
Oh,
okay.
I'm not. I'm glad I'm not alone then.
like like I don't have much to compare because the first one didn't create an impact on me. That's part of the thing. Like might be people there like they created like an emotional impact of seeing the first movie, of seeing their basketball hero, and that's why they remember it. And it didn't have that impact on me. So the second one is not going to have an impact on me, even if you have like an actual
Definitely.
star of the moment. So I'm the worst person to say a review about that movie because I don't like it. It's not my thing, you know?
That's good.
I'd be more
Yeah,
surprised they said I don't like the Looney Tunes and I don't like basketball, but I love the movie.
I doubt that'll be a thing,
Manuel,
right?
why are we both wrong even though we are different
No,
from each
you
other?
guys you're both wrong about Space
It's
Jam,
okay
the
to
No,
be
original
like
wrong.
Space
he
Jam.
keeps finding ways. Like we both are different
But you
from each
both
other.
agreed
And
that the
he's
first
like,
one isn't good, though. You said that the
that
first
it
one isn't
isn't
good.
good.
Yeah, you said
What
that.
I said
Yeah,
was
it's
it
not
was
good.
more of a culture phenomenon. That come on, it's
It
not
was.
like
Yeah.
We have to.
it's more like
Rewind the tape. You
No.
said it wasn't good. You agree with Luis that it wasn't good. You agree with him
Yeah,
in
I
that.
mean, I'm
I
not
said
saying
it
that it
Okay.
was.
wasn't good,
I'm still
though.
not saying that it was a great movie either.
But it's a good movie though. That's the thing. It's a good movie. I think that it does stand on its own. It is a good movie in one sense. But anyway, you're both wrong about that. Space Jam was a good movie, and 20 years from now, we're still going to be talking about the original Space Jam. And where I highly doubt that we're going to unless something happens with the LeBron, like LeBron, this is going to be part of LeBron's legacy or whatever. And one day we're going to be remembering who LeBron was, and that, and only in the context of LeBron are we ever going to be talking about Space Jam 2. Never again. Nobody's ever going to talk about Space
You know,
Jam 2 ever again.
I have people saying that this settles the GOAT debate because you're gonna be aliens and he just be like a video game.
Well, video games,
I
I
would
think,
say
is more,
that
more difficult, right? In that sense.
I would say that I do applaud that this movie did not have to include, some, I don't know, it didn't have to go back to the 2D era, to the hand drawn, and I really enjoyed those segments. They were really well produced. The sketch with Wonder Woman and Lola Bunny, that was so great drawn. That was a highlight in
I
my
thought
mind.
I thought you were gonna say that this movie did not have to get made. I was like, I was just ready to agree with you for the first time.
No, and I agree. No one was expecting this. No one needed this.
I
It's
think
true.
People
people
were
did
asking
expect.
for it,
Yeah,
though, for
people were
years, yeah.
waiting for it, but I do think it's a little like too late. And also another thing, now that you reminded me, I was telling you guys before is that what is it like? Did the other one? Is it a knowledge that the other one happened? There's kind of like gaps here and there, but it's not like
No.
quite there where there it is, and it's not. So it's super far from the first movie, right? And people were
Yeah.
clamoring for it for a while. It's super far. It's not like it's not like it's a follow up to the other movies, stuff like that. So I don't know. I think there were missed opportunities there.
I mean,
And it
but
might be like too late, and like the people, some of the people that were waiting for it were probably like ready to let it go at this point.
But not, I don't think so. But like when you say it's too late, what do you mean by that? Like who could have been the protagonist of a Space Jam 2 sequel in the past 20 years?
No,
Who
it
else could
had
it have been?
yeah, it had to be LeBron, either LeBron or Kobe, I
Exactly.
guess. But Kobe wouldn't do it. I
yeah.
know he wouldn't do it. But
No.
LeBron, though he's been there, he's been up for a while. This has been talked about for a while. I guess
Yeah,
it
but
would
remember,
he would have to get closer to
yeah.
in order to make he would have to make a case for the GOAT debate in order to be in it. I guess.
No, let's put it like this. This is what I bet. I bet was the intention. It just didn't work out that way. When LeBron won the his title, I don't know if you guys know this, but when LeBron won his title 3-1, when he was down 3-1 against Golden State, and he won, and everybody started saying this is something that nobody's ever done before, right? This has never occurred. Like it's impossible. When you're down 3-1, nobody has ever won, and LeBron won, and he beat the super team, the 72-9 or whatever, 73-9 team. Like it was something that was the point where people started saying, not just fans, but in general, like, oh, maybe there is a debate here that he could be the greatest of all time, right? He could be the GOAT. And at that time, there are interviews, or not interviews, there are leaks that say that's when Jordan started talking to his people and say, we have to release the documentary, right? So he saw what was going on with LeBron, and he said, we have to release the documentary because my people are going to start saying that he's the best. So that's why the documentary came out when it did. It was Jordan's response to LeBron, what he was doing. Now, this is what I think was going on with this is what I think is going on with Space Jam 2. I think that when he moved to LA, he became the first guy to ever win 3 championships with 3 different teams. I think they expected them to repeat this year. And if he had repeated this year with 36 years old and he was on his way to win the MVP until he got injured, if he had won the MVP during the regular season and he won the championship at 36 years old and then comes Space Jam 2, it's like, oh, this is special because
It's the
now,
crowning
yeah,
moment
exactly.
right there. Yeah.
I think
I
that
hear
because he got injured, he didn't win the MVP, he didn't get past the first round. Everybody's saying, oh, he's old, he should retire, and then we get Space Jam 2. It's like it doesn't make sense. It just doesn't have that impact. I think that their plan was, okay, maybe this year you're gonna win the championship, and we're gonna put the movie out, and that's what happened. It just didn't work out. That's what I think. If I put my money on something, I think that's what they were trying to do.
That makes sense. Shout out to Giannis and the Bucks too. We didn't talk about it here because I was out there when it happened. But shout out to them. It was a super well fought battle. Manuel kept it real for us and told us that that was exactly what was going to happen once they locked in defensively. That's what was going to happen. Manuel, how you feeling about this title, real quick?
Like I said, like I'm happy for Giannis because I wanted him. I want him to finally begin to dominate. Right? Like I don't know what it is about Giannis. I just, I
He's
want him to
likable
be.
though. He's
Yeah,
not
he's
like
likable. He
most
is.
superstars when you're like hating on them for like a lot of people
Yeah.
hate them for no reason or whether they have their reasons because they might be I don't know, I forgot what the word is, but
Yeah. Some people like
he's
Durant is arrogant, whatever. I don't
yeah,
like
arrogant,
that.
that's
So,
the word.
yeah.
But yeah, but Giannis is so likable too.
Yeah. So I want him to become like the one of the best or the best big man in history or whatever. So it has to start with championships. But at the same time, it hurts because you want the same for Chris Paul, right? You
Yeah.
wanted Chris Paul to finally win his first championship, and
It
he's
would have
gonna
moved them up on the list too. Like
yeah,
Chris Paul
because
is he's a great point guard.
who's the best who's the better point guard than Chris Paul in your opinion?
I mean, while I've been watching basketball, I do not think that there has been one.
Yeah, and that's what's so sad about it. Like, there's nobody as long as he's been playing. I think at least
He's just so
nobody's
smart.
better. And yet, he doesn't have a championship, and that's so
Yeah.
sad. So basically, that's my take on it. I'm happy for Giannis, sad for Chris Paul. Come Chris Paul over to LA. Let's win a championship this year.
He's still too. How old is he? At this age, he would still be the best point guard that they got.
Yeah, I think he's younger than LeBron though. I think he's like 1 year younger than
Is
LeBron.
he?
I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm gonna look it up.
I'm
right now.
hearing Melo coming up too to the Lakers. I'm hearing mutual interest from them, but the Melo and the Lakers.
Now that we're talking, I know that Luis and
Lakers
Luis
dream
don't
team?
care much about this, but I'm gonna ask you.
Yeah, if it was 2011.
Do you prefer Westbrook or Chris Paul
Chris
for
Paul
For LA though, for LA.
right now.
Yeah, yeah. See,
I
he's
was-
36 years old. He's
I
36.
still rather Chris Paul.
Chris Paul is a better point guard, and he's better for LA as long as he's healthy. My fear is that
No,
Chris
that's
Paul
true.
might not be healthy, and then we lose another year. So
Yeah,
that's
he
the only
doesn't keep
reason why.
healthy very well.
Yeah, that's the only reason why I'm leaning towards Westbrook. Not because he's better, but because we're 90% sure that he's going to be healthy for the playoffs.
You think they can get Westbrook though?
They are looking at Westbrook. Yeah,
Oh,
they're
yeah?
discussing. Yeah, they are. They're discussing.
What are they trading? Everything?
They're
We're
trading
gonna
every
have
year.
LeBron,
You know what?
AD,
You know that
Westbrook,
they
and
just
scrubs.
they just news came out that they've offered Kuzma and who was the other one? They've offered. There's two players on
I would
LA that
offer
they've
Kuzma $2.
yeah, but they've offered him to every team in the league.
Oh
Nobody's
yeah,
taking him.
yeah, he's just yeah.
Oh man, but yeah.
We'll save some of that for when we start the basketball podcast. So we're gonna move on, and so the next thing is gonna be Loki because that was also on the table before we had to scratch last week. The finale's up. Hopefully y'all have seen it, so we can go ahead and we can roll with spoilers right away. You can talk about the last episode. You can talk about the series as a whole. Y'all know what my opinion is. I think the series suffered. The ending suffered from setting up something more for the future of the MCU. They made this, and Manuel has some good points. So I'm gonna give it to them, but to him, but as to why that is, and the things that it did well in the time and amount of time that it had. But for me, it suffered. Even though he was telling us how the stories where arcs were completed and that kind of thing in that episode. I feel I wanted more. I guess it's probably on me, or it might be on them just trying to at this point we expect certain things from them. And for me, it didn't quite deliver. I was super hyped. Those last few episodes before there got me going pretty high for it, and then having a cliffhanger because we're having a season two as well as everything that else that's coming in. I don't know. It wasn't very satisfactory to me. That's what I can say about that.
I'm actually curious to see what Ruby Cat thinks. 'Cause I think she's the only one that hasn't had the opportunity to really talk about the ending. I'm actually curious to know if she liked it or what she expects.
Ruby Cat, did you like it?
the Loki ending, I was fine with it because I was expecting them to mess up the timeline. That was one of the things that was in the back of my head. So seeing it on the TV was like great, just like I thought it would happen. But at the same time, I think the episode suffer a little bit because they rely on who he remains, can, whatever, to deliver that impact. And the guy, the actor, is incredible, but I don't think that his script, his monologue, whatever he was trying to do was moving the plot forward. I felt like he was dry, like he was, they were trying to make it appear like he's playing games or maybe he's a little crazy, and I think he went a little bit too far. And I wanted to know more information, or I wanted more interaction with Loki and Sylvie, and that kind of take like a step behind, like a second place. And I mean, the series is about Loki, so I wanted more focus on them. I know that we have discussed whatever who's bad and who's good, and it's one of those choices where like it's depends on your point of view, and I think that's the whole purpose of it, to make you question whether Sylvie did the right thing or not, and who's right and who's wrong. So honestly, that they had a second season. I know I've heard Manuel saying like he was maybe a little disappointed in the past because they were like, oh, they're just gonna have a season one and they're just gonna have this amount of content. You respect that, and all of a sudden they came up with a season two. I understand that point of view. For me, just getting a season two, like was like, yay, I'm gonna get another season. I don't know how's that gonna go. If this is gonna be like a regular series ongoing, or like then I don't know, doing all this travel across the universes
Please
and
no. Please no.
I mean, it could very well to be. They have so many like storylines and so many possibilities that
Yeah,
it can go on and on and on for seasons, never ending seasons. And the actor has expressed that Tom Hiddleston that he could play Loki forever. So
Of
he might as
yeah,
well
course.
be all Loki 30 years from now.
What else is he gonna do, right? Who was he
yeah.
before this?
This is true.
But he's
You're
a
gonna get
good
the big
actor
bucks
now.
now.
He
He
does
No,
is
a
a
lot
good
of like
actor.
shows and all.
by far, he's an incredible actor, but he was nobody before Loki, right? At least on the public opinion,
Yeah, he
right?
wasn't
We
on a
never
whole lot
heard of
of
him
stuff.
before that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I
true.
remember
And he might have done a lot of stuff, but
I
we never
Yeah,
know
remember
him.
not
seeing
like
a
just some
post
big
of
stuff that everybody knows about.
I remember seeing a post of Chris Hemsworth saying like from the news back in the day that Marvel had casted him and Tom Hiddleston, and they were like two unknowns, and what that big mistake that was, because there were nobodies, and that was the word that they used. So yeah, there were nobodies, and
true.
now that there's somebody. But I don't
Hey,
know. I have that.
Chris Hemsworth was the father of I forget what his name is. Anyway, he was in Star Trek, all right? He wasn't a nobody. That's all I'm gonna say.
Oh yeah,
But
on the
he did
movie.
He's
Yeah,
Star
in Star
Trek
Trek. He's like
after,
for
right?
5 minutes. He's in Star Trek for like 5 minutes.
But
No,
didn't he do Star Trek after
I think
Marvel?
I'm not. I don't know. It was 2009. When did When the MCU start? I don't know when all that starts.
I think
And
he
then
was on Thor and then Star Trek at the same year. I think, yeah, because
probably
it was 2008 for Iron Man. So yeah,
yeah, but the thing is, I understand like the opinion of like Ace about like, you had the previous two episodes that were like crazy. They were like throwing a lot of things at you, a lot of Easter eggs, and it was moving pretty quickly. So slowing it down at the end, I think it suffer. It probably suffer as much as WandaVision, where it slowed down and like there was this big fight scene that seemed a little, to my opinion, a little cringe and a little bit unclear of what happened. It wasn't as obvious. So, I mean, but I'm still a Loki fan. So,
Thor one was 2011. Star Trek was
2011. Okay,
2009.
so
So
yeah,
yeah,
he
it was
was
before that.
he was Kirk
so he
Sabbath
was a
right
somebody
before.
before that.
Yes,
And
he was somebody to me anyway.
He wasn't Cabin in
Even
the
though I
Woods
can't.
too.
Yeah,
Good
that
movie.
is true. That is
Luis,
true.
let us know what you thought before we move on to, because I know I want Manuel to close on
Hot
this one
take.
because I know
Hot
he
take.
has stuff for all of us.
Hot take. Hot take. I enjoyed this episode a lot. Okay, and when I say a lot, I mean it. Like, and I was thinking about when have I seen something like this, done in any medium? And I went back to my early youth, just sitting in theater watching The Matrix Reloaded, right? high octane movie filled with action, all that, and you end all of it with the architect, right?
That's basically the same scene too, pretty
It
much.
was the same thing. Yeah, just basically the same
Right
thing
on the
all over
money.
again. It got me back on track because in my mind, I think that all you guys have really solid points in it, and it's part of how do you react to something that is presented to you. In my mind, I remember being the minority in that sense. People were like, presenting the architect at the end, this guy having a monologue there, is just jabbering, and I was like, that's so interesting though, because I the main attraction for me for the Matrix was not the action. I love the action sequences, so they're brilliant, and Keanu, you gotta love the man. But aside from that, the the intelligence behind it all, the plot twist, the fact that this is all just an illusion, and the way that he who remains, just delve deep into these topics that he didn't need to, because we were gonna watch the MCU anyway, right? What we were gonna do, watch other movies. I
I
mean,
just wanted
easy
the
as
series to end, and then and you can have a cliffhanger and your
true.
thing about the next season. But I wanted everything there to have I guess satisfactory conclusion to me, and
In
it
my
just didn't.
mind, I always saw this as a two-parter, and maybe that's why I didn't saw this as offensive as some other people saw it, because I wasn't blown away by the season two spoiler at the end. I was like, yeah, definitely, so maybe that was part of it, but I think they needed to go deep into some of these subjects because they're not gonna talk about it ever again. We're just gonna be in the multiverse, crazy verse, all that. So
Yeah, they just
this
opened the
was
floodgates now for doing whatever
yeah
they
this
want.
there was the only one time where we could go deep into this mythos, and I don't know. For me, it delivered on that regard. I do agree with you guys that it didn't. It seemed like, okay, it is a setup, right? But since it's there on the last episode, it's not like a tight seal to a really good developed arc that they had going on. Maybe this could have been in season five, in episode five, maybe, right? And just have a I don't know, like a battle at the end, or whatever. So I don't know.
All right, Mano, tell him why
Um,
he's wrong.
No, the first point that he made about the monologue. See, that's my point though. That's one of the things that I didn't like about it is that it was so cliched. We have seen it done before a bunch of times. Like we did have it. You're right. We did have it in Matrix. We did have it in The Architect. We had it in Sherlock. We've had it like that's just such a cliche for super villains that now we revealed who he is. Now he's gonna have
Super
this
villains.
monologue about now he's gonna have this monologue about why he's bad, why he's doing what he's doing, what is his big plan, and he knows everything. Like I hate everything that he said in that 30-minute monologue was so cliched. First from setting it up to like who is this guy? Oh, he's just some guy. That's so cliched. Like right, he's very cliched. When they try to kill him, oh nope, I know what you're gonna do before you do it. Like so cliched. He got everything under control. No, I'm the one who let everything happen. I'm the one who controlled everything. Like that, everything about that monologue at the end is so cliche for villains of this
I
type.
think
Like,
the
and that
only part for me was when he was like, "Buddy, I'm tired." Like, I think that's the only one where I kind of felt like, yeah, I hear that.
yeah, definitely. I mean, we have seen that before. I just can't pick it on top of my mind, but yeah, definitely that moment stood out for me as well. Right, that stood out. So there's a few things right there. I mean, there's a lot of things that are going on in my head right now. It's been already a few weeks since we lost all Loki, so I don't have everything fresh in my mind, right? But for example, now you know what? Let me put Loki aside. I want to ask you guys something that came into my mind yesterday, and I know you want to hear me talk about Loki, but I want to ask you something that came to my mind yesterday. See if you guys can explain it for me. How does Loki? What happened in Loki with the multiverse and all of this stuff? How do we explain Doctor Strange and the way he viewed all of the possible futures and said, "This is the one that this is the only way that we can win this possible future, and therefore that's what we're going to do." How do those two things align?
Do you know what? That's funny. I never thought about this before, but as you were talking about it, it makes you think. Okay, so if he saw all of this, then like all of them were possibilities, but realistically, only one of them would happen because they would get pruned. So I don't know. I don't have an answer for you.
Yeah, and
It's
he
one of
made it
those
I
happen.
things.
That's the thing. Go ahead. Go ahead.
I don't think there is a clear answer to this, other than maybe, and this might be me stretching it out. Um, Maybe the fact that he said there's only one chance, and he was chanting that. Maybe that in itself made a reaction for the TVA. Because in my mind, I don't know how you guys see He Who Remains, but I don't see him as the architect in a way that he actually knows everything, right? I think that He Who Remains is one that he has to react to some things, right? And while he is very wise, and he has all sorts of mechanisms on all that, he's not the architect, because the architect made the program, right? So he wrote the code, he knows how these branches will pop out. He Who Remains did not wrote the code for the MCU, like at all. So he's just there reacting to the main timelines, or the branches, all that. But he's reacting sooner than most of us because he has some other tools, right? So, in my mind, I think that he could not have seen, the Thanos thing, like, to be like as exact as Doctor Strange saw it, because Doctor Strange had help about the Eye of Agamotto, and the stone that it had. So, in my mind, Doctor Strange saw that, right? He revealed to everyone, I know there is at least one chance of us winning. And then the TVA finds out about that info, and they go like, so we gotta delve deep into this. What branches should we delete? Because they're all popping up, right? Is this, in my mind, it's a Nexus event, right? They just Thanos having all the gems, it's a Nexus event, because that itself could lead to an apocalypse thing. So in my mind, they were like, we're not going to go random into this. We're just going to see how this might play out. And maybe the TVA helped the Avengers in a way, because maybe they just saw them like get pruned, or get delete. And they were like, okay, so this is a clear path. This is the only way. So what I'm trying to say, like, I'm going sideways, all that. Doctor Strange, in my mind, helped the TVA develop the main timeline, because he was the one that saw the main timeline as the one that needed to be there still. That's how, in
But
my
I
mind,
don't. I
I see
think
it.
he just. I
yeah,
think he just looking at them. It didn't create any type of anything extra, so that they wouldn't have to prune anything. He just basically had knowledge of how it could have gone, and then it just went the one way. That is the sacred timeline. Like I don't think that cost anything, and I do think that he remains or TVA or whatever. They would already know these things because the way that it presents is like time is a like cyclical thing, so
Yeah.
I think they would know about it. Doctor Strange would see possibilities, but just him seeing them would not affect it in a way because I guess him seeing it would still be part of what the sacred timeline it is.
yes,
So it wouldn't be an
exactly.
issue.
You can't step out. Go ahead, Kat.
He
Yeah.
can see all the types of reality, but he already knows because I imagine he trained with what was the names of the mentor?
Yeah, the ancient one.
The ancient
Yes.
one. I mean that
She
there's
also
only
saw. Yeah.
one timeline, and that whenever things didn't go well, there will be branches, and there couldn't be any branches. So she must have passed that knowledge too, you know. Whatever he knows
Yeah.
is the TVA or something. That's an entire different thing, but he probably took into account in all the realities he saw which one doesn't branch, because he
Yeah.
has that knowledge that he's not supposed to branch. That's part of his job. It's like keeping Earth's reality and enemies and everything protected, but he also supposed to help that. I think
Yeah,
that was
He was intentional. He was intentional too. So maybe in a way, because this is a hard question because this is us trying to insert the TVA into the main MCU, and maybe that's not possible because we have the TVA now and we don't have it, since Iron Man, but maybe Doc Strange was intentional. He planted the seeds. So maybe what Ace brought up is it's really good insight. This was not accident, right? Doctor Strange knew this. So since he knew this, there's no need for the TVA because he's the TVA
That's not what I
in
said
his.
though.
I mean,
He's not
I don't.
EVA. I
I
think
mean,
he's just a protector of reality, and he knows
yeah,
that the for some reason he was passed down the knowledge that there could not be branches. That's bad. You have to
Okay,
keep
yeah,
the
but
time.
yeah.
I have to respond like, okay, so you're saying it's a coincidence then that the one timeline that doesn't create the branches is the one timeline where they defeat Thanos? That's just a coincidence then?
No, no. What I'm saying is, when I say that he's a TVA, I'm not saying that he's like a bad guy, that he was predestined to do this. I'm just saying that since he knows and he has the ability that 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 he who remains has, right, to see other branches, to see possibilities, all of that, he could be intentional into setting up the right ingredients and hopefully making this work in this just in this one timeline because aside from multiverse of madness which we don't know what he will do there. Doc Strange cannot travel through dimensions or timelines. He does not have that ability yet, right? So what he had on his hands was the Eye of Agamotto, right? And the ability to see all the possibilities. So with that knowledge in mind, he had, I mean, a set of seeds, right, that he
Here's
could
this is my
plant
point
there.
though. I'm sorry, but it's just it doesn't make sense. What do you mean possibilities? How are they possible? Like do the dimensions that he is seeing, I mean the timelines that he is seeing, the possibilities that he is seeing, does that he must know if the TVA is gonna prune one of those
Sure.
That they
Yeah,
will
branches,
yeah,
get
right?
branched.
So
yeah, yeah,
he
yeah.
knows which timeline, if they make certain decisions, will get reset because that's
Yeah,
part of
yeah.
the knowledge that he has, right?
True, true,
So he could
true.
only choose the one timeline that would not get reset by the TVA. And what
Yeah,
I'm saying is, it's a coincidence that the only timeline that would not get reset is the very timeline in which they defeat Thanos. Like that's just something that we have to accept. Like
yeah.
why couldn't it be that this timeline, in order to preserve, why couldn't it be that Thanos had to win? Like,
I
why does the
mean,
TVA decide that? Because we know that the TVA decides bad things to happen, right? Like, for
yeah,
example, this what's it called, Ragnarok, that has
yeah,
to happen. So it's not a matter
yeah,
of winning, the good guys winning. It's a matter of preserving the timeline. So we just
yeah.
have to accept then that coincidentally the same timeline that has to exist is the timeline in which the good guys win,
I
and
would
Doctor
say,
Strange then what did Doctor Strange see then? That's my point, right?
yeah,
He had no other choice but to do that one. There's
I
no other
would say,
choice.
does Doc Strange seeing all this now, having all this, these possibilities, timelines, and all that, does that make them branches? Because in my mind, I'm thinking about the fight that he had with Dormammu, right? Where he goes and he just inserts a loop, right? A time loop. And he's like, Dormammu, we need to bargain and all that. Um, was that a branch? Because in my mind, I think not. That was a like a time loop, right? So in my mind, maybe what Doctor Strange did was that he saw possibilities that could become branches, and having that knowledge, he was able to plant seeds and hope for the best. Maybe he thought this could all plan out because he was scared, right? We saw him shiver, a couple times um, after that vision. Maybe they were not set in stone. They were not branches, like real branches. They were just possibilities of branches, and maybe that had to do with the power of the stone itself. Maybe the stone allowed him to see a possibility of a branch, not a branch itself. Because I don't know, maybe he saw Tony Stark falling down right off a cliff. But that was not a set in stone, and he could be like, Tony, be careful. If you do this, this might have happened to you at some point. But he withheld that to itself. He planted some seeds, but he didn't tell them the truth because
Yeah,
he
but
didn't
that's my
want to
point, though.
affect that.
The point is that he
It's
could
just
not
one
have
of
done
these things that we
otherwise.
have to deal with because it's Marvel, and we just
Yeah,
gotta keep.
we have to.
In order
Yeah,
to move forward, we just have to deal with it pretty much.
It makes
yeah,
you
because
wonder if who he remains had the power of the stones before. Because how does he
Could
know
be.
how things are gonna happen? You know
because
what I
they
Could
mean?
be.
did happen.
Because
I think it's because they did happen. That's why he knows. I don't agree with
I
Luis.
mean,
I
he
think
was
he
he
knows what's gonna
was
happen because it did happen already. He just
yeah,
reset it.
because he was born in the 21st century, right? So
31st,
he's from the
yeah.
future. Yeah, he's from the future.
Yeah, so all of that did happen. The brand, everything did get destroyed. There was a war and all that stuff, and he did reset it. He found a way to reset it and preserve the timeline. So that's why he knows what everything is going to happen because he already lived it. It already did
Yeah.
happen. Yeah.
and that's why he mentions that up to that point where he meets a Loki or two Lokis. He knew he was gonna meet somebody. He knew he was gonna be Loki. For some
Mhm.
reason, he makes the comment about two Lokis. Maybe he was just being ironic, like, "Oh yeah, two Lokis," but he already knew that. So he must have
He
done it
did.
so many times.
We have to think too that this place exists outside of time. We see the timeline, and then it's in the middle of whatever.
Supposedly.
Yeah, so supposedly, so can I guess the continuity of the MCU and whatever the universe kept going up to the point where his thing goes, his time, the multiversal war, and then he comes here or whatever. But so we know that the time, at least until that point, he does know what goes on.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I
Yeah, but
have a
he genuinely
question.
doesn't. And to the point that Rubica was saying, real quick, that you said that he must have like this must have happened before or whatever. That's what Luis and I were talking about in the other podcast. That I think that yes, I think that this has happened before and it has turned out differently and he's reset it. That's why you see then the cracks on the
Yeah.
doors and stuff and they have gold on them. Like this has happened before. He's been breached before. Maybe it happened differently before. Maybe he had to fight off the Lokis before in the past or whatever. But this time they made a different decision and that's why it worked out the way it did.
Yeah, because he was surprised to see two and not one. So maybe it
Yeah.
has happened, and one Loki has made it and not two. And now he's like, well, But at the same time, this is very random question. But how is he alive? Wasn't he a version from Earth? Did I
Yeah.
misunderstood that he comes from Earth too?
Yeah, he's from
Does
Earth.
that mean he's
Yeah.
human?
Yeah,
So
he's
how
human.
is he alive? Is being like out of the timeline keeps him young forever? Like
Yeah,
what's
I
the
think so. I
logistics
actually
of
do
that?
think so. I think time doesn't pass. That's why the young Loki is actually the oldest
The
Loki of all
oldest
of them,
Loki.
but he's still a little
Yeah.
boy.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think you're right. You think time doesn't pass there.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
means that he found that place very fast. Like the guy was a genius
Or he
because you would think
created it.
that
Maybe he created it. I think he created it. I think he probably created it.
Or maybe
He comes out.
you know
He comes out in Ant-Man, right? The next Ant-Man movie.
yeah,
Is
Mhm.
supposed
quantum
to be.
area.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So maybe that version in the Ant-Man movie is the version that turns into this guy. Like maybe they show how he discovered all this stuff, time stuff or whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. True.
That's not a bad guess.
So yeah,
Yeah.
that's basically what I have about Loki. The I think that the question that I asked earlier about Doctor Strange or whatever, I think that the same answer to that is the same answer that we have to the Captain America traveling back in time and putting back the stones. I think the answer is that they didn't think that far ahead. I think they
No.
just did it and now they're just working with it. Because if we've already had all this stuff and just the other day they had the meeting, Kevin Feige, the meeting to say these are the rules of the multiverse.
Mhm.
Also, so you're establishing now the rules of the
Yeah.
multiverse, but you already gave us the season of Loki, that has all these
Yeah.
implications. So I think it's just humanly speaking, they just they're human like us, like they're going along with the flow and trying to make it as good as possible. We have to
We can
understand that.
assume two things. It was part of the TVA's plan for Captain America to live forever and happy and come back and die, and that will take care of like the branching. Or
I
they
hate
were
that
kind
so
of like
much.
Captain America didn't say anything,
Yeah, I
and
think
they threw the branch and he escaped on time and didn't tell anybody. It was like, yeah,
And the reason
I was
I've always hated the Captain America thing just doesn't make sense for so many reasons. I don't care if the TVA exists or not.
they
It's like
set the rules and then they break them with
yeah,
that.
exactly. But
Yeah.
and now the one thing that I've never been able to wrap my head around in terms of the Captain America thing is he's supposed to go back to the exact moment in which the stone was taken away and puts back the stone so that way there's no branching timeline. How is that even possible? Like, how do you go to the exact second You understand? Even if you go the millisecond after they take the stone, even if you go the millisecond after, that is still a different timeline. It's a timeline in which the stone disappeared for a millisecond. You understand what I'm saying? It's impossible.
Yeah.
Like is no there's it's like the law of physics that no two bodies or whatever can occupy the same space at the same
Yeah.
time. Well, it's the same thing. You can't go back in time to the exact moment where the stone was taken because either you're gonna meet yourself because you're there, taking the stone away, right?
Or it's too
Or
that's too
or
far
it's,
past.
or yeah, or it's too far. Like it's just physically impossible when it comes to time travel. I hated that so
Another
much.
thing too is like, for example, the what is it? The space stone is on the inside the tesseract, and now he just has the stone, and he has to
Yeah.
bring it back exactly how it was. Like, how does that work?
And the redstone, I remember.
The rest stone, yeah, the scepter,
It,
Loki scepter had another one. Like,
yeah, the redstone was liquid. It was not even solid. So that's weird.
yeah, I think it's like Manuel says, it's just the hindsight. We just got to deal with it and move on.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
what other way they could have? Like that was just the simple way out of Endgame. How do we bring Spider-Man back after he died? Well, we just have to travel back in time, right? That's the only way to do it. There's no other explanation, and I hated that so much.
I mean, we might see him die in No Way Home.
He can't die
That's a
again.
possibility.
It's gonna be like Loki. Yeah, how
You
many
think?
times has Loki died? It just loses the weight, right? And he can't die again. Spider-Man can't die again, and if he does, it's just you know he's gonna be back, right? So
So,
unless the contract thing actually
Yeah, I
ends.
think that's what's worrying
I
everybody
think
right
that
now.
what could happen is that he might not die, but he might get erased from the main MCU timeline and enter Miles. And
I
there's
don't
been a
think so.
precedent for
And well,
that
it would still be
in
too
the
similar. Him
comics.
being erased will still
Yeah,
be too similar to what happened. I don't know
To
that
the snap,
yeah, I don't
yeah,
know that
it'd
it
be
would
too
hit
similar.
that the second
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
But Marvel's trying really hard to push Miles out there. So I don't know. Maybe.
Miles could just be. I mean, they could do it in a bunch of ways, but he could just be the product of these different timelines, right?
Mhm.
So
Could be.
they just got
Same with
so
the
many
X Men and
possibilities,
everything. Like
right?
now, that's what
Yeah,
they do. They open the floodgates and they can get away with pretty much anything and
yeah.
explain it in that way.
This is a few in our podcast, the Spanish podcast. I was looking for this word and I couldn't figure it out, and then I figured it out. It's called. I don't know if you guys have heard this term. Maybe it's just me, but it's called the MacGuffin. That's what it's called.
Yeah.
The MacGuffin is like that's the one thing that can explain everything, right? That everything. And right now with this timeline thing, any type of confusion that goes on from here to the next 10 years, they could just reset it. That's the MacGuffin. That explains everything. No, they travel in time. Well, that's
It's
a different
Mass Effect.
dimension.
It's the Omnigel in Mass Effect. Space magic.
Yeah, yeah, space magic, right? Yeah, yeah. So yeah, but still looking forward to what they got in the future.
Yeah, for sure. That's
Definitely.
we're
Definitely.
still hooked no matter what.
I will
Manuel
say
said,
though, and
"I'm
I'm not
not gonna
sure if
watch. I'm not. I don't want to watch a second season, but he gonna watch it."
don't put your money on that. I might not. It depends.
Well,
So that's what I was actually gonna say, and I wonder if there's a lot of people. There's more people like me because there was a point in time in the MCU where you had to watch everything, absolutely everything. You couldn't miss anything, and I do think that ever since Captain Marvel, that's starting to fade away a little bit. Like people are starting to choose. I'm not really into that movie. I'll just figure out what happened or whatever. And for example, Black Widow, I'm not gonna watch that movie, and I don't feel like I'm losing anything. I don't feel like I have to watch that
You're
just
movie.
not.
read the summary, and that's it'll be
Yeah, or
good.
just tell me what happened
That's
in the
what
end
I
credits
do.
because that's all that really matters anyway. And I think that might be the case for me for Loki too. It depends. I might watch it, I might not. Not like I'm against it. I just wish they hadn't done it. But my point is that from here on out, I feel more likely to pick and choose what MCU products I'm gonna watch. Unlike a few years in the past where we just had to watch everything that came out. And I
Mhm.
wonder if this is a trend or if it's just me. It's probably
My
just me.
prediction was what you are saying is that you are correct. And okay, this might be me nitpicking, but I do think that the saga, the multiverse saga or whatever, will not last 10 years. They said they will not, you know,
Yeah,
they
they
don't
want to
have the
make those
resources
shorter
anyway.
now.
Yeah, so they're gonna make possibly like 3 movies, if you stretch it out, maybe 4, and make that saga. And there's gonna be some other like arcs right? There's gonna be possibly an arc in the more grounded sense with the Dark Avengers and some other stuff that they've been planning on. So maybe what Manuel is saying will come to fruition in a sense that the big MCU, the big saga, it will have some things that you would not want to miss, but the Eternals, right? You can miss that because maybe there will not be nothing there that connects to the multiverse, right? Because that's something that it's supposed to like be in the middle. Shang-Chi, it's been said that it's taking place during the 5 year breach of the snap, right? So if you miss the Eternals and you miss Shang-Chi, you're not gonna miss anything, possibly, right? But you can't miss Spider-Man because there's gonna be implications there, and you can't mix Doc Strange too, and you can't miss Loki too, but you might miss Hawkeye, right? Because Hawkeye is not gonna be connected to that. So that's my prediction. There's gonna be within the MCU, there's gonna be multiple arcs, and I don't know if that will work out in our minds or not. It all depends. But there's gonna be like little villains, big villains, all of that, and us as consumers will just have to react to it. And
And
I think Marvel knows it.
and if you think about it, it has to be like that, like eventually,
Yeah,
because how many movies do we have right now? 21, 22? Somewhere
Somewhere
in that
around there.
neighborhood.
I'm not
Twenty-one,
yeah,
22.
100%.
somewhere. Yeah,
So and this next phase, quote unquote phase, is building on that. So now we have three series that are within or building off of that. And now this year we have like how many movies of MCU? Like 4 movies or 5 movies this
four,
year alone, right?
four.
Four
Yeah,
movies. And it's all building off of that, right? And eventually you have to make a decision and say, wait, how do we get the newer generations into this MCU? They're not
sure,
going to go back and watch 40 movies so they can understand the next one, right?
sure.
So eventually you have to do something where this is for the next generation, right? This has to have an end or a reboot point or something. I don't know, something like that.
I think
Yeah,
that's part of
definitely.
what they're setting up with this is that they can continue doing these movies like they have been tying off of each other, and they can just throw a one off, and there's no problem with that because say it happened in a different universe or whatever, like it might eventually tie in, but it can be a one off. Like that was my problem with Loki was it now it's just setting up for something else. Like I couldn't just watch it as a self-contained thing like for example, the Falcon and Winter Soldier was when I watched it, and everything just hit right there and ended. And there's gonna be more implications later on. But as far as just the one self-contained experience, it was perfectly fine. So they might just start doing some one-offs and stuff like that, just to try to, grab the attention of everyone that's not really going all the way back or following like that.
True,
Give me
true.
two more episodes of Loki in this season. If it would have been instead of 6 episodes, 8 episodes, at most 10 episodes, one story, a beginning and an ending, it would have been possibly the best series, the best MCU series right now. Because it doesn't have an ending, it's yeah, it can't.
It can't
That's
take
an
that
issue.
spot.
Yeah, yeah.
All right, with that, we're gonna move on to the main course and our main topic of the day. And we were talking about what if you could build and you had unlimited resources to build a video game. Say your perfect video game, what you would like to like play, stuff like that, with your favorite whatever. What would that be? And who wants to start? Now me.
How many? I have two. A very very small, simple, dumb one, and then my like main one, the one that I thought of
Manuel's
when you asked the
indie game
question.
and his AAA game.
Yeah, yeah.
I
So
have to too.
You
yeah.
also have two, Rubica. How many you
Yeah.
have? Just the one?
Just
Just
one
the
is
one.
all
Okay, so
okay.
Manuel, you can start with our your smaller one, and then we go to Luis,
All
and
right.
then we go
So
around again.
So basically, this is something an idea that I've had in my head for years, and I actually wanted to do it when Dreams came out. I said, okay, I bought Dreams because I thought I was gonna be able to learn it and do it, whatever. I'm finally gonna do it, but I never learned how to do Dreams, so I couldn't do it. But I've always had this idea, and it's more of an experience. It's something that could last for like an hour or 2 hours. It's something very short, right? And basically, it's you're on a ship, on a boat, like on a big ship or a boat or whatever, and you get into a storm and it's starting to, and you're gonna die, right? You're gonna die. So the game is basically trying to survive the storm, trying to figure out what do I do on this ship and fix this area and tell these people these instructions, and maybe you have to fight off a shark or a whale or something like that. Like the point is that the entire experience is simply survive this storm, right? And with your resources, etc. And there's something very, very short, and it could be procedurally generated, right? In the sense that you play it once, and then the next time you play, you can't do the same things because different things happen. Maybe on one playthrough, your ship gets struck by a lightning strike or whatever. So how do you deal with that? Maybe on the next run, there's a mutiny on your ship. So how do you deal with that? Maybe on the next time you start getting flooded. So how do you deal with that? And like there's different options. So you could do it procedurally generated. But I don't know why I've always had this idea in my head that it would be fun to just be there and literally and no instructions, because that's the thing. And that's the game shouldn't tell you something breaks, press Y to fix this. No, you have to. You're on the ship, and you have to try to figure out what you would do if you were on a ship and it was sinking, right? And that's basically my small idea. I've always wanted to have something very simple. It's 30 minutes, an hour, procedurally generated, and that's it.
I will play that. I will play that. It makes me think of
That
real
would be
quick
cool.
of the what is it? 12. I think it's 12 minutes. Is that right? The that upcoming game that we're waiting
Yeah.
for. It makes me think of that, and I would definitely play that. I think it's a great idea.
Yeah.
What about you, Luis? What you got for the first one? Do
So
you
the
have
first
both
one,
small? Or do you have all triple A?
this one is
I'll
AAA.
be right back.
Yeah,
All right.
this one is a AAA. So this one, um, you remember? I think Ruby got played it too. GoldenEye, the
Yes.
007 game
Hmm.
for the N64.
It's a classic.
That yeah, you use James Bond there and all that. That game was great. One of the greatest first person shooter experiences ever. But that game,
I'm sorry. Did Luis just say, "Do you remember GoldenEye for the N64?"
I
As if
know.
yeah,
that's some indie game that nobody's ever played.
no. I'm just saying that
He
this is a
did.
AAA. No,
He
I'm
did.
just saying AAA. But no, because I don't know. Our listeners. There might be some young people there. I don't know. But so even though that
Oh,
game
now
was
young people
awesome,
are offended. Now we can't have you next episode either.
no, even though that game was awesome and it delivered on so many um aspects, that game did not deliver at least on one in my mind. It did not make me feel as a James Bond. I was a soldier. I was a shooter. I did most of the stuff, but it did not make me feel as James Bond. I was not in his shoes. I was not doing the things that he does on the movies, right? He did not have a pretty gal on his hand. He was not running off, crazy cars, server jets, all that. He did not have the crazy gadgets, right? So in my mind, I would
He had the
want,
watch, I think, right?
yeah, I think that was the only thing that he had in the map. Yeah, um, I would want a trilogy of games, not just one, a trilogy of games. But the first one should be
Oh,
um,
breaking the rules already.
having James Bond be on his prime, right? As Uncharted, having him on his prime, his own missions, is all that. This would be a third person action adventure game with elements of stealth and shooter. Okay, so it will be all that, and the first game it will have this, good villain, that's witty, smart, all that. Maybe the second game will delve deep into his traumas, and maybe we will see more of Bond there. But I would want the series to end, at least on the third game, seeing Bond in his forming years, while he was in the academy, because we've never seen that in movies before. I don't know how that guy was made. We just see that he's a badass, right? But we don't know nothing of Bond, right? So I would want to be on his prime. I would want to see his demons, and I would want to be on his shoes while he was growing up. And that's why I say a trilogy, because this guy deserves that. James Bond is the best espionage ever, right? The greatest guy in the action verse. So I don't know.
You have
That's my
my
pitch.
account. Play Hitman. That's a
But it's
trilogy.
not the same. It's not the same because him is just an assassin, though. I would want this guy to grow because James Bond is likable. He's not Agent 47. That guy's ruthless. He doesn't speak. He's just I don't
He
know.
does
He's
speak.
something to or where he's impersonating people. I don't know. Give me a Bond game, but that game, I want that game.
All right. Ruben, get what you got.
Okay, so I want a virtual reality MMO RPG game where we
Sword
can
Art Online.
all connect there and experience things for real. For real, real, real. All of us at the same time. I want it to be thousands and thousands and thousands of infinite hours of playtime. And I wanted to have different planets, just like Star Ocean, and you just go in your ship and you go
That's cool.
somewhere, and there's all kinds of worlds out there to discover. And I wanted to have the elements of Kingdom Hearts. If we want to change our appearance into like some kind of weird monster to blend in into that planet, I want that
That's
too. I
cool.
want those costumes too.
I
I
want that
want
too.
us to date all people and all creatures, just like Persona 5. Like, give me all my confidence, all my friends, all the possibilities. And then what else? I've been oh, and it has to be designed by Kojima, so it has to be weird and interesting. If it's
Only,
not,
Ko-
I
Ko-
don't want it. And as
only
a
Kojima
bonus,
can
we should
tackle it.
have a Death Stranding planet. So if we are unfortunate enough to discover it, who knows what's gonna happen to us? We might die in the game. So yeah, my ideal game has a bunch of random elements because I want to experience in real life like what a fantasy world feels like, and just do my normal human things and discover treasure and have friends and have a life and all that. So that's more like my random concept.
So
That's cool.
it's funny you say that because I've always thought when I play the stealth games or whatever, like, would it be possible for me to actually try to be stealthy in the real world, like try to hide behind a building and see if some people can see me or whatever, spy? Like, how, would that actually be possible? That's pretty interesting.
Yeah, just like this anime that Luisa introduced me, like what is it, like Sword Art Online? Like, we get skills and we
SAO.
level
Yeah.
up, and then you'll be able to be stealthy, man. But we gotta be out there in the field killing monsters.
Yeah. Yeah. You gotta kill the pigs first. Yeah.
But you wanted to, because we didn't get to my and we can mention Kojima again. You can tell us what you read about Kojima.
Oh, it's something very simple, right? Obviously, there's the blue box thing that I showed
Hmm.
you guys. That's not that interesting, but come on, guys. Like, we know what you're doing already. Like, it's get over it. If it's not a Kojima game, then you're doing yourself a disservice. But I wanted to point this out. I saw today that in 2019, I didn't know this, but Death Stranding has the most total awards of any game released in 2019, and that's 115, and that's
Wow.
media outlets and reader like critics and fans. So it's not just like the critics or whatever. And that includes, for example, Death Stranding has 115, number one. Resident Evil 2 has 92. Sekiro has 79, and Control has 34. So they're not even close. Like, the closest is 92
Hmm.
with Resident Evil. And I find that so interesting, right? Because that game is not beloved, right? Like, by everybody, right? And like, even though I liked it a lot and I played it twice, I did the platinum. That's not Kojima's best game by far. And a lot of people criticized it, and it's a walking sim and all of this other stuff. And I just wanted to highlight how even Kojima's quote unquote worst game is like the most recognized game of 2019. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah, it's funny. I was looking at that picture as soon as you sent it, and I looked at it a little closer. I was like, okay, yeah, that, like this point, if you're not if you're working with him, then you just literally gave it away. If you're not, then you shot yourself in the foot because now we're expecting it. That's kind of what I
Definitely.
gathered from that.
In case you guys nobody like we don't you don't know what we're talking about, but basically Bootbox has this game that's been rumored to be working with Kojima for a while, but they say no, etc. And today they released a picture that's blurred out and it says "Get ready" or something like that because they're gonna show finally the reveal, gameplay reveal, and all that stuff now in August. And the blurry picture in the background, you can see a face like somebody standing there, and he clearly has an eye
Eye
patch.
patch.
Like he clearly has an eye patch, which is like Metal Gear Solid. And on top of it, I don't know if you noticed too, like on top of his face, there's titles like like subtitles or whatever. So why would that be blurred out? It's obviously not the name of the game because we already know what the name of the game is, right? So what is that, and why must that be blurred out? So obviously they're playing games with us now at this point.
Yeah, I agree with that one. All right, so Mano, you have second one. Luis has the second one. Ruby got hers gone. I'm gonna start on mine. It might go crazy because I just kept rolling with it. I can't like I couldn't help it because I was like, well, I like this and I like that, and it basically borrows from many different genres. So it would become like a ridiculously like when we were talking about Death Stranding and how like you can't really make out what it is because for example like it would have that like it would have to be in an open world, and I'm thinking something like GTA, but then I'm thinking wait, what if we start uh what if we start in like medieval times, something like that, and the game just progresses and you like play generations of yourself? Like for example, something simple like BitLife does that when your person dies and then you get to play the next one. So what if it progressed like that? And then I'm thinking, okay, do everything. Like true open world, do everything kind of thing. It made me think about Fable a little bit, where it broke with that kind of thing. I didn't play games before that did that, where you can basically do whatever you want it, within the limits of the game. So something like that. I don't know. It has to have, it would have elements like that. Something like The Sims. It just end up being a whole different thing, and then you can basically, and this is why, like, I'm talking about unlimited resources, and if the technology was there, like, think about this. So you can do whatever you want. It's kind of open world like GTA. Say, you decide to, for example, run for a political position or become a king if it was on the Middle Ages or something like that. Now the game shifts into, say, for example, something like Civ, where you have to make decisions, you have to expand your thing, that kind of thing. What if I can go all day with this? I'm gonna cut it, but at some point. But like, say you went to space and now turned into something else, like what's that game that oh my god, I forgot.
Mass Effect.
No, not Mass Effect. It could be like Mass Effect. I'm thinking more like the oh my god, what is that game that came out like super
Dead Space.
terrible, and
Dead Space.
then now it's like the standard for games getting fixed.
Destiny.
No Man's Sky.
No Man's Sky, so something like that. Now you're colonizing other places, and you can start over there and build, your people and stuff like that. It's just it's a mess, but I don't know. It just it makes sense to me because you get like something for everybody pretty much. It's a game where you can do what you want, the things that you're not maybe able to do in real life, but you would like to, kind of thing.
It'd be pretty crazy because obviously that game will never get finished. Like it would never end, right? Because they it would keep adding. But it is interesting what you're saying. If I followed what you were saying, basically, like for example, let's say we're in the modern era or whatever, and I decide that I want to be a race. I don't know, a racer or whatever. Now the game all of a sudden is a racing game, like a Need for Speed, like
It kind of like
arcade game
evolves
or
depending
whatever.
on where you want
Yeah,
to go with it. Yeah.
that's crazy ambitious, like really really ambitious.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I'm going crazy with it. Like all the resources out there, all of the technology, because I don't know. I kind of like had the basis of just first I started with, well, it had to be an open world game. That's probably what I would enjoy the most, and then I just kept adding stuff to it, and I wouldn't stop. So I don't know. I couldn't sleep that night, so I just kept going.
In that kind of game, I could just end up in The Witcher and then hang out with Gerald, as you're telling me. So I like that idea.
No, it's an
Henry,
original thing though. You can't
Henry
hang out
Cavill,
with Gerald. You can hang out with somebody that looks like Gerald, but I don't want to get sued, kind of thing.
All
Mano, tell us
right.
about your AAA experience then.
All right. So mine is pretty much this. It's not a surprise what type of game that I would do. Basically, it's Superman game, right? That's like my number one game. And what I want is I want a Naughty Dog type Superman game. So I want it to be a narrative action adventure game. I don't want it to be an open world game. I want it to be a a narrative action adventure game. And when I say Naughty Dog, that means the narrative aspect of it. So I want it to be so like graphics on another level, like the acting, like real good actors and whatnot. And I want to play through Superman's story. And like Luis, I would like it for it to be a trilogy as well, right? One game is the main thing, but I have an idea for the trilogy. And basically, like I want to see a narrative experience about Superman that makes you feel for Superman in a way that nobody else has ever done, right? So I want to be able to play him as a child, growing up with the Kents. I want to be able to play him in the youth before he becomes Superman. I want to be able to play his first love with Lana Lang, right? She broke my heart in Smallville, so I want to relive that moment with Superman in a video game, his first love. I want to meet Lois Lane for the first time, right? And I want to be a newspaper a journalist, and I want all of this to be part of the narrative experience on top of the Superman aspects of it, right? We have the Superman aspects of it. So I just think it would be so incredible to be able to play as Superman in a narrative way, not as Superman as a superhero, right? It's Superman in a narrative way. I want him to get to know this character. I want to feel for him. I just imagine playing the video game, especially for people who don't know his story. And when his father dies, like when Jonathan Kent dies and he has a heart attack, like that would be so impactful in a video game because you're the character, right? So that's what I would love, right? And then so we become Superman. Maybe the first game, I that won't work, right? But in my ideal mind, we become Superman in that first game, right? And then in the second game, it would be Superman in his prime. So here we defeat, the iconic enemies and all of that stuff, and we save the world. People fall in love with Superman. He becomes the iconic Superman that we have. And come to think of it, maybe we could have Superman also have a family eventually, right? And because Superman, that's one of the things that I love about Superman and Lois, the fact that he's a family man, he's a father, and he's a husband, and I love that aspect of that show. And then the third game would end with the death and return of Superman. So we would have the third game would be the climax, and we would fight with Doom, right? With Doomsday, and he would die. That would be the end of the third game. After we've seen him evolve and grow and become Superman, and then possibly have a family or whatever, the game should end with him giving his life, saving the world, defeating Doomsday, and that's it. And that's the end of Superman. Then here's the additional idea. Years later, somebody else makes another game not related to Superman. So it's just another narrative game. Maybe Naughty Dog does it again. And we have this other game, and it's incredible. The story is well done, or whatever. You're playing as some random character, I don't know. And you're falling in love, and then there are hints here and there that this world is different than what you think it is. And at some point in the game, you realize you didn't know this in the marketing. This is not undercover art. This is not on anything. But at some point in the game, you realize that you're playing in the universe of the trilogy of Superman. And in that game, Superman returns. So we have the death of Superman, and then we have Superman Returns. And that is the end of that game, the end of Superman, the resurrection of Superman.
It's like Unbreakable and Split.
Yeah, but something like that. So I think that because that last idea that I had about the fourth game, I've always wanted somebody to try to do something like that, not just in video games, in movies as well. Like I've always wanted. I know it's impossible because nerds would know beforehand. Oh, this is this story, right? But for example, if somebody tried to do a Peter Parker thing without saying that it's Spider-Man, like Luis we would all know it's Spider-Man because obviously the names and the characters and all that stuff. We know this stuff. But I've always thought if it would be possible to somebody do something like what Shyamalan did with Split, where we think we're watching this movie, and then at the end of the movie we realize, oh, this is actually a sequel to this movie that came out 20 years before. And I've always wanted something like that with some sort of superhero, for us to watch an origin story of a superhero, except we don't realize that it isn't superhero, and all of a sudden at the end the reveal is this is this character. That would be so mind-blowing, but I know that's impossible. But in the video game world, I think that could be possible for this type of story, Superman story. So I would just absolutely love that.
That's cool. I like that. Luis, what else you got, man? Oh,
So
before you go, I was thinking when you were talking before about the game about being a spy and that kind of thing, it made me think that
yeah.
might be either might have been what they were thinking, or that's what I kind of was hoping. And maybe Manuel as well, because he likes stealth games from the game Agent that Rockstar was supposed to come out with. So it
Oh
would be
yeah.
kind of like I guess a GTA, but you're an agent and it will involve stealth and that kind of thing. which unfortunately
Yeah,
it didn't come out. But that's what I was thinking, kind of when you were talking about that.
yeah, we need that because I mean, Metal Gear is it's the definition of stealth, right? And Snake, it's awesome, but you have political drama, you have all of that, but I would like all those aspects to be centered out in just one guy,
Mm.
just being Bond, the center of it. So yeah, just give me that. Maybe with Idris Elba, he's a good actor. Maybe I don't know. So this game, the pitch for this game, this is something that has been done over and over again. So at first glance, you might not be surprised because this gonna be like again.
It's a Pokemon
But
game.
no, no, it's not gonna be a Pokemon game. It's gonna
It's a
be a
Kingdom
Dragon
Hearts
Ball
game.
Z game. It's gonna
Oh
be a
well.
Dragon Ball Z game
Okay.
out of left field. We've seen the Saiyan saga and the and the Android saga and the Soul saga over and over again, and the Magical saga and all that. So I would want a game within the context and the mythos of the Dragon Ball Z universe, all those sagas. Because just having this big bad do one thing, erase the Saiyan saga forever, right? So all the events will play out like they would, but not with the Saiyans, right? And by erasing the Saiyans, I'm gonna erase the fact that this is gonna be a fighting game. It's not. It's gonna be an RPG game. It's gonna be like a Final Fantasy VII type-ish game, right? So
Take my money.
yeah, humans are gonna like march up to this big bad that's coming up, in 2 years or whatever, right? You have the warning sign, and you gotta level up. You gotta do all this because we've seen Universe tackle this. What if the time changes? What if this and that? But it always ends up being a fighting game, right? And I don't want that because that's just easy to do. That's the one liner of Dragon Ball Z. So what if humanity actually had to tackle the fact that aliens are invading? What if Frieza would to, would be to come here and we only had Krillin on our side? We didn't have anyone else. We had Yamcha, we had those guys, right? The Lokis, the ones that the underdogs. What would we do? We would have to level up. We will have to find resources. We will have to find Kami and have him on our side and have Piccolo on our side too, even though he's a villain. And I would like to see that, and maybe just maybe at the end of the game, seeing Goku arrive and just being Goku the big bad. Like I erased myself from existence because you guys didn't deserve me. Okay, yeah, I was always saving you, and I didn't want to be here, so I raised myself from the existence, and now you're the guys that have to battle all this. So that would be cool. There's a game that tries to tackle the DBC sagas within an RPG format, which is Legacy of Goku. I don't know if any of you guys have played that. That's really cool, but it has Goku. It has all the right elements. So erase the Saiyans from DBC assistants. Just erase them. I don't know, whatever. Just erase them and have all the threats come to Earth and have humans react to it. And we'll see how it goes.
It's funny
RPG
that
format.
you have that idea. I think, and I can remember the exact year. I think it was either 2007 or 2008. I had an idea. I think it was after Crisis Core at some point, or either that or Crisis Core was coming out. I don't remember the exact day where it came out, but I had an idea for another Final Fantasy, another game within that compilation, Final Fantasy VII, where well, I personally like Zack better than Cloud, which is
Yeah.
part of what I was going with here. Um, I don't exactly recall. It ended up being like Cloud. He would succumb to this thing that he has where Sephiroth controls him to basically become the big bad. So that's why I mentioned it, because you said that. And then Sack would have to get the band together and stuff like that, and and take care of Cloud. It's basically the fan fiction is what it was. But I don't know. I thought it would have been cool. I was maybe I think Crisis Core had come on. I was maybe on a high note with SAG. That's probably what happened. But I always thought that would be a good cool thing. But I can see why some people wouldn't like it since Cloud is supposed to be the main guy.
I don't know why they like Cloud so much. He's not a likable
That was,
character, right?
that was bad. That's
Uh,
just bad
and
for
in
gaming.
in the latest version, he's just cute. You just like, okay, he's cute, and that's why everybody likes him. He
Yeah,
has no
Basically.
other attributes.
I guess so.
He's a terrible personality, man. A terrible personality.
He's not even. He has third personality. Everything that's cool about him is not even his.
Yeah.
True. Not
I,
even.
I wanted to add to my two ideas that I had because this is stuff that can morph or whatever.
Mhm.
In the narrative one, the Superman one, I also would like to have it like another Naughty Dog type narrative experience, but make it off other properties. Like, give me a Doctor Who game. Let me be the Doctor. Give me a
That would
Star
be
Trek game. Let me be Mr. Spock. Like let me live out my fantasies of being these characters. Give me a proper game with them. And in terms of the other game too, the smaller game, I would like a game that where you have to investigate, I don't know, a murder or something like that. But again, the game doesn't give you instructions of what to do. You're in the world and you have to observe. Like for example, this happened in Skyrim. This is the first and only time I've ever had this experience. Where in Skyrim, somebody was murdered in one of the towns, and you could investigate. You couldn't because it was a side story, right? But the way you investigated, it's not like you could press a button and say, okay, let's see where the clues are. No, you had to actually look around. Oh, there's blood over there. Let me follow that trail. There's something happened over here. So, and it's so organic. And I wish you could have something like that, like investigating where you're just in the world and based on your observations as a player, you investigate what's going on, not based on instructions that the game is giving you, like talk to this person or go over here. Like I just wish we could have something like that.
In
Um,
my game, you can have a planet like that where you have that quest. I'm gonna stay in the spaceship. You guys go and discover the murder mystery. Because
I
You're
like those
giving
kind of
them
that and
games.
zombies. I'm not.
I like that kind of games. I played a long time ago that CSI game. I think it was Hard Evidence. Just investigating, and it does hold your hand a little bit, which is what it's not what Manuel is saying, but I did that investigative aspect and stuff like that. I like that in LA Noir as well, but
You know what?
a little bit
Now that
better than that.
Yeah, now since resources aren't limited, then give me a virtual world where I can
To
do
be
that.
fair, I did say it in the
Right?
chat this time. I
Yeah,
didn't
and
just
I
change the
think
rules now, like
that
usual.
was your idea, right, Ruby Cat? Like so it's something that we're actually immersed in. It's not like a
Hmm.
video game like you control,
Yeah,
right? That's what
something
you're
we
saying.
were worrying.
You're
Yeah.
Yeah,
immersed and you're that person, and there's infinite amount of planets and all
yeah,
kinds
yeah,
of
yeah.
things.
So
to
yeah,
discover.
so go building. I'm gonna go into that world then. The Ruby Cat mentioned, and one area is the investigating or whatever, and I'm actually in it. And I'm actually looking and doing things. That would be pretty awesome.
Yeah.
Make me
I'm
Sherlock
just
Holmes.
giving. I'm just giving the disclaimer that I'm not gonna go to planets that are scary.
That's a good. I mean, I think kinda it lends itself to like say like when I was talking about mine, and then you say if you go out to space and there's an infinite amount of planets, so that at that point it becomes kind of like her game. So you got a good thing going.
Yeah,
And
our
when
game's
we get
falling
bored out
down.
of it, sorry. And when
No,
we
go
get
ahead.
bored out of it, like any lazy writer, we do time travel.
They're just
I'll,
different
I'll let
universes, and that's
Manuel,
that.
I'll let Manuel establish the rules because if I try to
Yeah.
explain time travel, he's gonna
You
eat
can't
alive.
put
Imagine
time travel. You have to have the
imagine
rules.
if Manuel made all the rules and then somebody came out I found a flaw in the rules.
Actually, that's not a problem because when it comes to time travel, right now you're going into my realm here. So when it comes to time travel, paradoxes are impossible. That's the point, right? That's why we always find issues with time travel movies and shows. It's because it doesn't work perfectly. Like there's no way to make it work perfectly. There's always gonna be some sort of loophole or whatever, something that just doesn't make sense. And that's part of the thing of time travel. So, in all honesty, if you're gonna ask me if I'm gonna make the rules of time, I can't be the one to make the rules because if I'm the one to make the rules, time
He
travel
can't
isn't even
dissect them.
possible. It's not no because it's not possible. in my mind, it's not even possible to time travel because of that, because of these paradoxes or whatever. So which goes back to the Loki thing and to the Doctor Strange thing. Like that's my point. Like if anyway, I'm not even gonna delve down that hole. That
No,
time
no, no.
travel thing.
You know, you gotta,
It
you gotta keep
confuses
going with it
thing.
now.
It just confuses thing because if like when he's looking at these different possibilities, that includes the possibility that you're looking at these possibilities. So you're part of the timelines that you're looking at. You understand what I'm saying? So it
Yeah.
becomes circular, and it's impossible to get out of that vicious circle. That's part of time travel. Like if I right now people say, for example, if time travel were possible, why have we not encountered a time traveler yet or whatever? And my answer to that is, how would you know that you can encounter the time traveler? Because it's already part of our history. It already happened or it will happen or whatever. So if I were to, for example, if right now, if I were to, or if I'm in the future, 20 years from now, and I decide to travel back into this moment in time, that time traveling is already part of my timeline. So you can't change the timeline because part of the timeline is the fact that you time traveled. It becomes a circle. It's impossible to get out of it. So that's why I like the idea of, for example, people going back in time and trying to kill Hitler before he does the Holocaust, right? And it's interesting, and I always like this idea because what people say is, for example, you tell a Jewish person to do that, right? And you tell a Jewish person, go back in time, you kill Hitler before he kills all these millions and millions of Jews. And I know I'm going into dark dark space right now,
Well,
but
we can't have Manuel next week either.
but here's the thing, that when it comes to time travel rules, right? One of these things is that you can't change time because the time traveling is part of that timeline. So if a Jew in the future or whatever, or in the present, goes in the past and tries to kill Hitler, and when he's a child, for example, that's what and he misses, he fails for some reason, and that's the reason why Hitler grows up hating Jews. Because when he was a child, a Jew person tried to kill him for some inexplicable reason. That's what made him hate Jews, and that's what made him do the Holocaust. So you understand? So it's like it's a
Time
circle.
travel.
You can't do it. Yeah. So that's time travel is so interesting. I love it because of that. But that's why it's
We
so
gotta have to
difficult.
have the time travel podcast as well. We gotta add it to the list because I love time travel and
I
stories
could
like that
talk
as
about
well.
time
Yeah,
travel like a lot, a lot. What were you saying, Ruby Cat?
That's a good topic. We can bring video games,
Yeah.
movies, things that like have dealt with that topic, and just
Yeah.
talk about
We could have
those
a
and
debate
see if
about, I
we
don't know,
agree with
what movie or series or game or whatever about time travel has done it best, and we can maybe have a
Back to the
debate about
Future.
that. That'd be
We're
pretty
done.
interesting.
Oh, so time machine.
Chrono Trigger.
Hot the time machine.
What did you say, Ruby Cat? Which one?
Chrono Trigger.
Trigger? I don't know
Chrono
what that is.
Trigger.
Oh, Chrono Trigger. Chrono Trigger.
Chrono Trigger.
Since we already have 3 answers, and my answer would be Chrono Crimenes. So we have 4 different answers. It'd be fun
Yeah.
to debate that. It'd be fun to debate that.
We definitely have to
Yeah.
come back to that one. Yeah, it's. I mean, I enjoyed it as well. So we are all in for that. All right, so that's gonna be it for tonight. We're gonna leave it here. You know, we had a great conversation. We are very, very happy to be back with you guys. Thank you for sticking with us, and we have a few more things coming up soon. So stay tuned for that. Thanks again, and you have a great night.